Everybody, I'd like to call this special meeting of the Sterling Heights City Council to order. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials, grant them courage and wisdom to do what is right for all citizens.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. McHale. May we please have the roll call?
Mayor Taylor?
Absent, excused.
Mrs. Sarowski?
Here.
Mrs. Koski?
Present.
Mr. Radke?
Here.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Present.
Mr. Yanis?
Here.
Mrs. Zier?
Present. Council, we need approval of tonight's agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Mrs. Koski?
move to approve the agenda.
Support. It has been moved and seconded with no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this is our budget workshop. This is the first of two budget workshops with the budget adoption at the first meeting in May. We have a number of presentations from our administration, so I will now hand this over to our city manager, Mark Vanderpool, who will take it from here. Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski. On behalf of our finance team, I'm very excited and pleased. Some of you may find it strange that we take pleasure in presenting the budget, but we really do, to present the fiscal year 23 budget for the City Council's consideration. The budget before you this evening, which, by the way, is available online and the viewing public can look at it at their leisure. It focuses on the following areas: infrastructure improvements with another very busy year planned for road construction, sidewalk gap elimination, of course, public safety, and financial stability. The budget incorporates feedback received from the City Council throughout the year, including strategic planning and other forms in which the community provides feedback. Like past years, we have a number of presentations planned this evening. If the council desires any budget amendments regarding tonight's topics, please indicate such after the presentations. We will then formalize any suggested amendments with motions to consider at the second budget hearing on April 26. All motions for any amendments will need to be voted on April 26 so that they can be incorporated into the final budget, which will be approved on May 4th. Like past years, there's going to be plenty of time, of course, for questions and comments from the City Council and audience members. And now we can jump right into it, and we'll kick it off with our Budget and Finance Director, Jennifer Varney, who's going to elaborate further on the proposed budget, and then we'll continue on with our presentations. Thank you.
All right, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski, Mr. Vanderpool, Mr. Koszubski, and members of council. I'm happy to be here tonight to present the fiscal year 2022-23 proposed budget. The total city budget is $251.6 million, which can be broken down into 5 major fund types as depicted here. The largest city fund, the general fund, totals $117.2 million, or 47% of the total fund budget, followed by the Water and Sewer Fund at $59.3 million, which is 23% of the total fund budget, and special revenues, capital projects, and debt service funds make up the remainder. In total, the budget increased 3.4%, or $8.3 million over last year. The major changes are broken down on this slide. An increase of $5.2 million in the American Rescue Plan Fund. So this fund was created this year to account for the expenditures related to the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds received from the federal government. The full ARPA action plan will be presented to City Council for approval at the April 19th council meeting. However, the fiscal year 23 budget includes ARPA funds for 2 road construction projects: the resurfacing of Plumbrook Road from Utica to Van Dyke, and the concrete repairs to Ryan Road from 14 Mile to Metro Parkway. An increase of $3.4 million in the general fund, which will be explained in detail later tonight and at the second budget workshop. An increase of $3.4 million in the road bond construction fund to account for the expected expenditures for Phase 2 of the total Mound Road reconstruction. And an increase of $2.4 million in the water and sewer fund, and that will be detailed at the next budget workshop. An increase of $850,000 in the road bond debt fund, and that's due to the estimated debt service for a $16.5 million road bond that will be issued at the end of this month to fund Phase 2 of the Mound Road reconstruction. The total fund budget also includes decreases in the following funds. $5.1 million in the capital projects fund, and that's due to the DPW building that was carried forward to this year, about $5.3 million, and that's not in the current budget. The proposed capital project budget totals about $6.1 million, and I'm going to discuss that a little bit later. Another decrease is in the facilities improvement fund of $1.25 million. So these were funds that were carried forward to the current year, and all the renovations are completed now, and so there's no further expenditures budgeted to this fund. And lastly, a $600,000 decrease in the Community Development Block Grant Fund, and that's basically due to the extra funding we had received last year for CDBG related to the coronavirus. So on to the general fund, which totals $117.2 million and makes up about 47% of the total city budget. The general fund can be divided into the city's 8 departmental budgets as depicted here, and you can see that police, fire, and public works make up nearly 65% of the general fund budget. The total general fund budget increased 3% or $3.4 million over last year, and the main variances are listed here. $2.8 million is in increased wages and benefits. That's about a 2% increase over last year and is primarily due to contractual wage adjustments. The transfer to the capital projects fund is about $500,000 higher than last year, and we were able to add an additional $250,000 to the transfer to major roads, bringing the total transfer amount to $500,000. Fuel costs have increased significantly due to higher gas prices, and software costs have increased primarily due to a change in the model for Microsoft Office, which now requires annual licensing. An annual license of Nearmap software is also proposed. Nearmap software provides frequently updated high-resolution aerial imagery, and this will be of great use to many departments throughout the city, including assessing, building, engineering, and public works. Postage costs are increasing about $100,000, and that's mainly due to the transition to monthly water bills. Now, we are actively recruiting to try to get people to sign up for e-billing. You can go to our website and do so, which could help reduce these costs. And after we transition to monthly billing, we're going to have a campaign to try to encourage people to sign up for e-billing and auto debit to try to bring those costs down. Legal fees are increasing, and that's primarily due to additional work related to illegal marijuana grow operations, work on the Safe Homes Task Force, and also legal work required for the major developments that are on the horizon. Contractual services related to snow plowing, grass cutting, and custodial services are all increasing, and additional services are proposed for window and floor cleaning and security system maintenance. The general fund transfer to the Parks and Recreation Fund increased by $220,000, and that's primarily related to wage increases, as well as additional part-time wages and incentives for seasonal employees. Sterling Fest expenditures will increase as we return to our traditional Sterling Fest after a 2-year hiatus. Now, these increases are offset by decreases in the required contributions for both pension funds and the retiree medical funds, totaling $870,000. Strong investment returns, as well as our longstanding commitment to fully funding these plans, has resulted in the first decrease in required contributions in many years. Finally, street lighting costs are lower, primarily due to the one-time expenditure last year to convert all of our street lights to LED, and there's also factored in the expected annual savings in electricity costs from that savings, that conversion. So this brings us to our total proposed budget of $117.2 million. So I'd like to highlight the status of our pension and retiree medical plans before we move on. So as you can see here, significant progress continues to be made toward fully funding all three of these plans. As of the June 30th, 21 audit, the retiree medical plan is over 78% funded, the general employees pension plan is over 86% funded, and the police and fire pension plan is 72% funded. The commitment that City Council has made to fully funding, in fact, overfunding the retiree medical plan can be seen here. The funding level increasing from just under 9% in 2006 to nearly 80% in 2021 is really quite remarkable. And the current budget continues this commitment to funding the plan and still includes a $1 million contribution over and above the contribution recommended by the actuaries. Now on to general fund revenues. Estimated general fund revenues total $117.5 million and broken down into the major categories here. And property taxes still make up most of the general fund revenue at 62% of the total. Total general fund revenues increased $3.4 million or 3%. Property tax revenue increased $2.4 million due to an overall rise in taxable value of 4.6%. The inflationary increase that most residents will see is 3.3%, with the remainder of the increase coming from growth in home sales resulting in the uncapping of values. Revenue from the police and fire pension tax is decreasing this year. Again, that's due to the reduction in the required contribution that we discussed earlier. And also additional revenue from the personal property tax and taxable value increases also reduce that. The great news is that this will reduce the tax rate for residents about 2.29 mils. The personal property tax reimbursement is estimated to be higher this year by about $650,000. We had lower revenue last year, and that was in part to several companies that did not turn in their exemption paperwork on time. But we are happy to report that for the current year, due to the very hard work of the assessing department, which even included driving to some companies while they filled out their paperwork, 100% of companies filled out the required form this year. State shared revenue is projected to be about $330,000 higher than last year, and that's based on estimates from the state of Michigan. And it's a total of about $14 million annually. Now, the current year's revenue is actually higher than that at about $14.6 million, but that's due to a spike in consumer spending that we've seen the last year or so that we don't expect to continue. And also about $200,000 of the increase is directly related to our increased population in the 2020 census. Court fines are expected to increase due to the reopening of the court, as well as a renewed focus on traffic enforcement and the additional offers hired for the directed patrol unit. Sterling Fest revenue is expected to return to pre-pandemic levels, and interest rate revenue should increase due to expected rate increases by the Fed. Finally, expected grant revenue is lower this year, and that's just due to the expected receipt of reimbursements from FEMA in the current year for our COVID and vaccine center expenditures. The proposed city millage rate for 2022 is 16.38 mils, which, as I just mentioned, is a decrease of 0.29 mils from the current rate. The average taxable value for a home in Sterling Heights is $85,660, and that's based on the current assessment roll. And this equates to a home with an average market value of about $231,000. So the annual city taxes on an average home is just over $1,400, which equates to about $117 per month for all city services, and that's less than a $5 a month increase over last year. And as you can see from this chart, the city's tax rate continues to be one of the lowest in Macomb County. Now, the expected general fund revenues exceed proposed general fund expenditures by about $300,000, resulting in an addition to fund balance of just over $300,000. We have increased fund balance every year since the Great Recession, and general fund balance now totals just under $34 million, which is 29% of expenditures. This is a very healthy level that will allow the city to continue to invest in city services and infrastructure while maintaining a low tax rate. Now on to the special revenue funds. 10 funds totaling $42.6 million. The major and local road funds make up over 50% of the special revenue funds and total $21.7 million to fund the maintenance and repairs to the city's major roads and local neighborhood streets. The major and local road funds both receive funding through gas and weight tax revenue. This is often called Act 51 revenue from the state of Michigan. Road funding for 2023 is expected to increase slightly, about $200,000 over what we received in 2022. The city's share of proposed major road projects totals $6.8 million and includes repairs to 14 Mile Road from Hayes to Maple Lane, Ryan Road from Metro Parkway to 18 Mile, Shaner Road from 19 Mile to M59, and repairs to the 17 Mile Road Bridge over Plumbrook. Safe Streets revenue continues to fund the repair and reconstruction of neighborhood streets, although revenue growth is limited here usually to inflation because of annual rollbacks in the millage rate. This year, Safe Streets revenue, in combination with Act 51 revenue, will fund the repair and reconstruction of 32 neighborhood streets. Local road revenue is also used to fund neighborhood street tree plantings, and an additional $250,000 will be funded this year due to the receipt of a grant from the MEDC. Combined with the $500,000 for street trees that's proposed in the ARPA action plan, next year will be an unprecedented year for increasing our tree canopy. Across all funds, there is a combined investment in major and local roads of $37 million, including the second phase of the Mound Road total reconstruction and 2 additional roads proposed to be funded using receipts from the American Rescue Plan. The next largest special revenues fund is the Parks and Recreation Fund, which totals $9.1 million this year, a 1.3% decrease from the current year. The decrease is primarily due to the bocce ball barn that was funded in the current year. The debt service on the bonds to fund recreating recreation improvements totals about $3 million annually. The last recreating recreation project, the bocce ball barn, is expected to be completed this year, so there are no additional capital expenditures in the proposed budget. The proposed budget for the Parks and Recreation Department includes several new programs: a mom-to-mom sale, Recreation on the Run, which will bring Parks and Rec activities to parks throughout the city, more coffee house concerts, roller nights at Dodge Park, pickleball clinics, and a bocce ball league. The remaining special revenue funds include the Community Development Block Grant, which is funded with federal dollars. This year, the CDBG is able to fund restroom renovations and an LED light upgrade for the senior center, as well as the reconstruction of 2 neighborhood roads. Public Safety Forfeitures funds equipment and supplies for the police department through the proceeds from seized property. The Indigent Defense Fund tracks revenue expenses related to rules implemented by the state regarding legal counsel for indigent defendants, and this is completely funded with grant proceeds from the state of Michigan. Again, the American Rescue Plan Fund was created this year to track the expenses for the $20 million received through the American Rescue Plan. And again, the full proposed action plan will be presented to City Council at the next council meeting. But the proposed budget does include funding for the repairs to Plumbrook and Ryan Roads. The Corridor Improvement Authority uses tax captured revenue to fund improvements in the North Van Dyke Redevelopment District. The current budget includes funding for potential property acquisitions in the district. The Local Development Finance Authority uses tax captured revenues to fund the Velocity Business Incubator and other smart zone activities. And this year's budget also includes funds for the reconstruction of Brentwood Drive. And finally, the Brownfield Redevelopment Plan uses tax capture to reimburse eligible brownfield project costs to encourage redevelopment of contaminated and obsolete properties. The current brownfield is related to the redevelopment of the old Liberty Park site. The capital projects funds total $24.1 million and include use of the proceeds from road bonds, as well as $6.1 million of investment in capital projects, equipment, and vehicles. Some highlights in the proposed budget include Phase 2 of the Nature Center roof replacement, the modernization of the elevators in the library, heating and cooling system replacement at Fire Station 5, the continuation of the project to replace the parking lot at Delia Park, the resurfacing of Magnolia Park Tennis Court and the reconstruction of the Baumgardner ballparks, and the continuation of the sidewalk gap and repair programs, as well as the purchase of new and replacement vehicles and equipment that will be detailed throughout the departmental presentations. Finally, the debt service funds total $8.4 million and provide funding for the debt payments on outstanding road bonds and bonds for the facilities renovation and the new DPW building. Voter-approved debt on the fire stations is also included and will be paid off this year. The proposed budget includes debt service for 2 new bonds to be issued at the end of this month. The first is a $16.5 million bond to fund the second phase of the Total Mound Road reconstruction, and this debt service is funded with Act 51 road funds from the state of Michigan. The second is a $12 million bond to be issued to finance the replacement of all commercial and residential water meters throughout the city. These meters are 30 to 50 years old and long past their useful life. The new meters will allow users to track and manage their water use in real time, pay by mobile phone app, and set alarms for leak alerts. These meters are also essential for the transition to monthly billing, which will improve the customer experience by providing more frequent, smaller, manageable bills. This debt service is funded through water and sewer rates. Even with these 2 new debt issuances, the city is still well below its legal debt margin, shown here as of the 2021 audit. The city has used just over 1/4 of the amount allowed by law. Furthermore, road bond debt service is limited to 50% of annual Act 51 proceeds. The debt issued to finance Mound Road results in the use of 70% of our legal limit. However, there will still be $3 to $4 million available each year to finance additional road projects. And the issuance of the debt to fund this reconstruction of this critical road in our city was all part of the long-term road plan, and our percent of debt service used will start to decline in about 10 years when other road bonds reach maturity. This chart summarizes all debt service payments included in the 2023 budget along with their funding sources. Nearly all city-issued debt has a dedicated funding source. For example, the bonds issued to fund recreating recreation initiatives like the Dodge Park renovations and the community center are funded through the Recreating Recreation millage, and the road bonds are funded with Act 51 revenues. In fact, 85% of annual city debt service has a dedicated funding source. Only $3 million of annual debt service is funding using general fund dollars, and this is for the debt on the facility renovations and the new DPW building. This debt service equates to only 2.5% of total general fund expenditures. And due to the upcoming bond issuances, the city was rated by Standard & Poor's just last week. S&P affirmed the city's AA bond rating, but updated the outlook from stable to positive. S&P noted the city's track record of strong financial performance and tax-based growth, sustained improvement in pension and OPEB liabilities. A positive outlook indicates a strong possibility that the city will be upgraded to AA+ in the next 2 years. And this is really quite an achievement, as less than 2% of local governments rated by S&P have a positive outlook. Now, the 3 departmental budgets we are reviewing tonight. First up, city administration. The city administration is made up of 2 divisions with 57 full-time and 12 part-time staff. The city administration budget totals $12.2 million, and the split between the individual offices is shown here. The city administration budget increased by $875,000 or 7.7% this year. Personnel costs increased by $140,000, primarily due to contractual wage adjustments. A $100,000 increase is included for a citywide diversity, equity, and inclusion training initiative, and this is part of our multi-year DEI plan. Postage costs increased $100,000, primarily due to the issuance of monthly water bills, and facilities maintenance costs and software costs also increased, as explained earlier. Capital equipment and vehicles related to city administration include a high-capacity letter openers and a high-speed printer for elections. Both of these purchases are grant-funded. Replacement computers for assessing and community relations, the replacement of a 2001 box truck for facilities maintenance, and the replacement of carpeting in the council chambers is also included. Next is the public library budget, which totals $2.9 million, and the library has 13 full-time and 26 part-time employees. The library budget decreased 2.4% over last year, and that's primarily due to lower part-time personnel costs. The proposed budget includes a new library chat service that will allow residents increased access to library customer service. Capital expenditures for the library include upgrades to the elevator, new end panels for the collection stacks, and a new interior sliding door at the library entrance. Last for tonight is city development, which is made up of 5 divisions totaling 46 employees. The total budget is $5.6 million and is broken out by division here. The departmental budget decreased $40,000 or 0.7% over last year. The small decrease is primarily related to the prior year one-time funding of the development of an urban forestry management plan and the grant-funded development of an electric vehicle infrastructure master plan. Capital for this office includes a replacement vehicle for the building department and replacement computers for engineering, neighborhood services, and planning. New projects include a consultant to develop an overall economic development strategic plan, which is a requirement to support the city's application for redevelopment ready certification, and funding for the annual gypsy moth spraying. And that concludes my overview, Mayor Pro Tem, and now I turn it over to Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Varney. And now moving on. The good news is that was the longest presentation we have scheduled for tonight, although very interesting. Let me introduce the next one. Many know that the city's taken great pride on the diversity fostered over the years throughout the city. Sterling Heights is one of the most diverse communities in the metro area, reflective of many religions, ethnicities, and races. Over 40 languages are spoken in schools representing regions across the world. The city's foreign-born population is almost 30% now. This diversity creates a rich environment for economic vitality and overall community vibrancy. There's no question the city's pledge to being a welcoming and inclusive community is certainly paying off. It is important that municipal organizations represent community demographics in which they serve. With this in mind, our organization, consisting of over 600 employees, has become very diverse, but we need to continue to make progress in this area. This evening, our Human Resource Manager, Kate Baldwin, will be presenting an update on the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan, and she'll be joined by Darlene King. Most of the council is very familiar with Mrs. King, who's with Life's Journey Consulting and has been instrumental in guiding our administrative team through this exciting process. So, Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to turn it over to Kate Baldwin.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, Mr. Koszewski, and Mr. Vanderpool. Excuse me. I'm very excited to present to you this evening on our diversity, equity, and inclusion journey. With me this evening, as Mr. Vanderpool mentioned, is Darlene King. Some of you may know Ms. King, as she has partnered with our African American Coalition in the past, and more recently through her consulting firm, Life's Journey. Ms. King and her team are providing us with their expertise on our DE&I efforts. A little background on Ms. King. She's a certified diversity professional, and she is also an executive director of the Michigan Diversity Council, a division of the National Diversity Council. City administration, with the support of the mayor and city council, launched our DE&I journey last year, and we are so thrilled to be sharing some updates with you all. Through the DE&I journey, we will be touching on many DE&I components and action items. However, we have one primary deliverable, and that deliverable is to develop a long-term sustainable diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan to align with the city's visioning plan. The strategic plan will touch all facets within the organization and include things like reviewing current practices and programs to meet the diverse needs of those that we work with and also those that we serve. The strategic plan will also include a learning development plan, providing all employees within the organization training opportunities to educate on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Through the strategic plan, there will be many goals and objectives defined as we dive further into data recently collected through an analysis and also a survey. So let's review some of our key milestones, or phases. Our DE&I journey consists of 3 phases or key milestones. I'm pleased to report that we have completed Phase 1, which included the development of our DE&I Employee Council and DE&I Advisory Board. Our DE&I Employee Council is made up of employees in the organization from multiple departments who represent diversity amongst our employee population. And our advisory board is made up of executive leaders in the organization who have both a strong internal presence as well as an external influence. Phase 1 also consisted of the data analysis and organizational readiness and cultural competency survey. This went out to the employees, and in just a few slides, we will be sharing some information on those 2 components. Within the next couple of months, we will transition and embark onto Phase 2, the creation of employee focus groups and the development of the city's sustainable diversity and equity and inclusion strategy. Our DE&I Employee Council will be reviewing the results of the survey to determine which employee focus groups are needed within the organization. The DE&I strategy will also be developed with input from the DE&I Employee Council and the employee resource groups with the support of Ms. King and her team. Phase 2 is expected to be completed by midsummer. The last milestone, as represented in this slide, will consist of the learning development plans, or as I like to call it, the DE&I training for all the employees in the organization. The learning development plans will be outlined in the DE&I strategy, and the learning plan or trainings are slotted to begin this coming up fall. And now Darlene's going to provide some highlights with respect to the timeline and a summary of the data analysis.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kate. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. As presented within the presentation slide, we have accomplished quite a bit within the last 6 to 8 months. To date, we have concluded the data analysis and provided an executive summary report to the DE&I Employee Council as well as to the Advisory Board. We finalized delivered the Organizational Readiness Assessment and Cultural Competency Survey to all employees. My team and I analyzed the results and presented an executive summary report of the survey results to the DE&I Employee Council as well as to the DE&I Advisory Board. And along the way, we've had numerous meetings and some trainings within the DE&I Employee Council and Advisory Board on progress, as well as discussions used around the importance of this work. Coming up this month through June, we will be developing the employee focus groups, conducting focus group sessions, and compiling feedback as well as results, as we will be developing the city's DE&I overall organizational strategy. While a lot has been accomplished, we still have a lot more exciting things to come as we transition into phase number 2. When we launched the DE&I journey with the City of Sterling Heights, the first step was to gain a better understanding of the organization's diversity dimensions, including gender, race, age, and tenure. We work with Kate and her team on the data analysis, and the data analysis is an evaluation of the organization's current diversity demographics of the last 3 years, comprising of 2018, 2019, and 2020. The goal of the data analysis is to use facts and data to define what diversity factors have the greatest influence and impact on the organization's performance, culture, and the employee's workplace experience. Within the data analysis, specifically the leadership data, our key findings concluded that amongst the 35 leaders in the organization, 23% are women, with 5 being executive leaders or directors, and at all levels of the organization. The leadership is 100% white. Based on this data, there is a significant underrepresentation of women as well as people of color. There is an underrepresentation of the voices, experiences, and perspectives that influence the lives and success of women and people of color, and an underrepresentation of perspectives that contribute to the city's decisions and practices. Overall, the culture is very, very disproportionate compared to the U.S. data census for the city of Sterling Heights. Also, within the data analysis, specifically the workforce data, our key findings concluded that female representation averages 26% of the employee head count. Female minorities averaged a representation is less than 1% of the total employee population within the organization. The average minority population representation is only 2% in the entire population of the organization. The city of Sterling Heights represents 17% racial minority. Efforts to increase the racial minority representation from 2% to 17% requires years of commitment and accountability to the workforce and the community in the efforts of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, Kate would dive into the organizational and cultural competency survey results.
Thank you, Darlene. The Organizational Readiness and Cultural Competency Survey was sent anonymously to employees in the organization on behalf of Ms. King's team in January. The survey consisted of questions selected by our DE&I Employee Council specific to the inclusion strategy and the strategic drivers. Those drivers are listed here in this slide: visible leadership commitment, actionable diversity management strategy, engaged, skilled, and diverse workforce, collaborative, trusting, and innovative workplace, community and social engagement, and customer service and relationship focused. We had 52% of our employees participate in the survey. The data was then analyzed through the lens of various diversity dimensions of the respondents, including race, gender, and tenure. Darlene and her team, Ms. King and her team compiled the data and presented the results in a very detailed report to our DE&I Employee Council and Advisory Board in late March. Over the next few slides, we will highlight some of those results, but before we do that, let's take a look at some of the demographic makeup of who responded to the survey. A majority of the respondents, 80%, were white. 8% were people of color, and 12% preferred not to answer. 44% were male, 44% female, and 12% responded as other, or they preferred not to answer. The majority of respondents are either millennials or Generation X, and 60% of the respondents have been with the city for less than 15 years, and 40% who have been here for 15 or more years. As the survey data is extensive, we will highlight one metric or statement within each of the 6 strategic driver categories. The first strategic driver is visible leadership, specifically executive leadership. The statement highlighted or circled as represented in the slide reads, "In my opinion, our executive leaders demonstrate behaviors and promote a set of behaviors and attitudes that indicates that they value and foster inclusion." 64% of the respondents agreed with that statement. 20% said, "I don't know," and 16% disagreed. Also within visible leadership commitment, specifically direct manager or supervisor, the statement highlighted reads, "In my opinion, my direct manager or supervisor demonstrates behaviors and promotes a set of behaviors and attitudes that indicates that they value workplace diversity." 72% agreed with that statement, 20% responded with they don't know, and 9% disagreed. The second strategic driver is actionable diversity management. The statement highlighted reads, "From my perspective, I believe our organization has clearly defined their business case for a DE&I strategy." 38% agreed, 41% don't know, and 21% disagreed. The third strategic driver is engaged, skilled, and diverse workforce. The statement highlighted reads, "In my opinion, the organization has a diverse workforce that reflects the diversity dynamic of their community, residents, and customers." 47% agreed, 16% don't know, and 37% disagreed with that statement. The fourth strategic driver is collaborative, trusting, and innovative workplace. The statement highlighted here reads, "My organization fosters an inclusive workplace that provides equitable and fair pay and benefits at all levels of the organization." 64% agreed, 17% did not know, and 19% disagreed. The fifth strategic driver is community and social engagement. The statement highlighted or circled here reads, "My organization engages in community and social initiatives, and the people in the community view the organization as a great place to work." 53% agreed, 39% did not know, and 8% disagreed. The sixth and last strategic driver is customer service and relationship focused. The highlighted here reads, "From my perspective, the organization evaluates and proactively responds to the diversity trends that impact the community." 43% responded that they agree, 39% don't know, and 18% disagreed with this statement. And now Darlene will touch on our overall rating scale.
Thanks, Kate. So the city received an average overall rating with respect to the strategic drivers of a 3.4. The national industry standard benchmark that is ideal is at least a 5. This further tells us that we have a lot of opportunity to further enhance our organizations with respect to the diversity, equity, and inclusion journey.
So where to next on our DE&I journey? With the financial support from our mayor and city council and city administration, the city has budgeted $175,000 total for the next fiscal year to continue our strong momentum of this imperative journey. With the financial backing, we are headed into phase 2, which will consist of the employee focus groups and the development of our DE&I strategy. The phase 2 milestone is targeted to be completed this summer, and we look forward to presenting updates to all of you along the way, and we'll plan on providing a more formal update upon the completion of the DE&I strategy. Thereafter, we will head into phase 3, which will consist of the learning development plans or DE&I training. The learning development plans will launch this coming up fall. Now, before we conclude our presentation this evening, we wanted to share with you all something special. Here is a message from some of our DE&I employee council members. The city's visioning plan was developed and implemented to create a vibrant, inclusive, and diverse community. With this in mind, we are embarking on a diversity, equity, and inclusion journey. Through this journey, we will be developing a strategic DE&I plan. With us today, we have a DE&I expert who's going to help us guide us through this journey, Darlene King. Darlene, can you share with us what this means for the organization and the community?
Absolutely, Kate. Thank you so much. So there are many components to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, including an educational component for employees at all levels of the organization. The work of diversity, equity, and inclusion is one that is going to give individuals the opportunity to appreciate the uniqueness and the differences that we all have, and to embrace it in order to have a better servicing to the community of the city of Sterling Heights. This work is going to help shift the organization's culture so that everyone within the city, as well as employees and the community at large, will be able to embrace the uniqueness of one another.
Through this journey, we have a dedicated DE&I Employee Council. Our DE&I Employee Council is made up of employees within the organization who represent various diversity dimensions. Now let's hear from some of those council members.
DEI means being exposed to various backgrounds, opinions, and cultures.
I think it's important to me because it's showing that the city is making strides towards making sure everybody here feels comfortable.
The city is concerned about its employees and wants to make sure that people here are thriving.
I think if we understand each other a little bit better, everything would run a little bit more smooth.
My name is Nick Holly, and I'm a member of the DEI Employee Council.
I'm Tracy Davis. I am a member of the DE&I Employee Council.
我叫林金，我是 DEI 雇员委员会的成员之一。
Shimi Lamar Kashat, أنا كبلخن إمد Sterling Heights Police Department, وأنا إيوان إمد جماعة DEI Council. So when I was asked to be part of this group, my initial assessment was that we were going to see how we can tackle some of the hiring practices in an attempt to recruit more minority officers and personnel within the city. And whether it be the police department, the fire department, what it turned out to be, and what I was very grateful for, we were able to see the bigger picture to not only address some of these recruitment and retainment issues, but we were able to see what else can we do to continue to move the city forward.
And then also being able to have an open conversation with all people from all different backgrounds, and then also recognizing their unique opinions, and then their strengths, and then their attributes.
I've actually learned a lot. I thought I was pretty versed on the topic. Equality and equity is different, and I never even knew that. I thought if something was equal, everybody had things that were equal, but for somebody that's in a wheelchair that is given a ticket to a seat behind a fence that can't stand up and see the game, like even though they both got a ticket to that game, the person in the wheelchair is not going to see that game. So equity would mean that we make a seat that someone in a wheelchair, a ramp that someone in a wheelchair can see the same game. So you make things so that everybody has the same opportunity. And that was really impressive upon me because I didn't really know that before.
It makes a person feel good when they come into a community center and they see people of their same demographic. Like, I know for sure growing up here and stuff like that, you can walk into a lot of businesses and it may be kind of hard going into a workplace and not seeing people from the same background of you, ethnicity, or different things like that. So just seeing that there are people who look like you, per se, makes you feel a lot more comfortable in the business and whatever you have to conduct.
Having employees with diverse backgrounds, it brings in different perspective when you're dealing with day-to-day work. And that will definitely lead to creativity and innovations.
I feel like it's important to me, being a female as a firefighter in a male-dominated employment. I've been doing this for 24 years now, and I want to make sure that I leave this place better for females that want to become firefighters behind me. I don't want them to have the same struggles that I might or might not have had. So I think it's important. I mean, diversity means everybody's giving opinions and you're well-rounded because you're seeing things from all different aspects. So I feel like I have an important aspect to present to just make things a little bit more equal for everybody. I mean, firefighting is a job that is physical, and if you can do the job and you can handle the physicality with it, everybody should have the opportunity to do it.
For me, I think that it's very important that the department or personnel that work for the city are reflective of the community members that they serve. And ever since I started here, the city of Sterling Heights has always been proactive in recruiting officers or department members to be reflective of those community members. Being Chaldean myself, I thought it'd be important that not only through our recruitment efforts that we do retain those officers that have come to our agency that are from the community, but we also seek out individuals from the community to come work for the Sterling Heights Police Department.
As you can see, engineering is a very diverse department already, and I'm very proud to be part of it. And I think in all of us working as a team really actually help promote productivity and creativity and innovation, because all of us, we have all different backgrounds, and then with all of us working together, it just bombed.
I don't have to hide in the shadows or kind of just go day to day or, keep my head low. Like, no, you can stand out, you can shine, you can be a beacon to somebody.
I would say that if you want to see change and if you want policies either modified or extended, you have to be part of the solution. There is always room for things to get better, but if you are not putting yourself out there and initiating some of your ideas and some of these changes, then things stay status quo or they stay stagnant.
Ask questions. I think the best advice I could give is, if you have questions, talk to that person that you think you can get the answers from. Right now we're exploring and learning a lot about this, and those of us on the council are very eager to express the things that we've learned and point out things that we could do better. So I would just say, start the conversations. Oftentimes conversations bring out education, and everybody leaves the table being a little bit more educated, and it's just a better atmosphere.
We look forward to the continuation of this journey and having you all included, and we thank you for your time this evening, and this concludes our presentation.
And Mayor Pro Tem, I just want to add that you can see how important this work is. It's not easy work, and it's taking some time, but it's incredibly rewarding, and the entire organization's going to benefit, and ultimately the community. And once the plan is fully developed, the final phase is over the next year. We fully expect, based on the good work of the DE&I Employee Council, that will be recommending next fiscal year hiring the city's first ever DE&I director. And that individual then would be responsible for evermore working with the DE&I Employee Council and implementing the DE&I strategic plan and updating it when necessary, so on and so forth. Thank you for all the good work in that area to our team. And shifting gears, COVID changed the way we live and the way we interact with one another. The libraries had to evolve and adapt rapidly to changing environmental issues, finding new ways to connect with library customers, and they've been incredibly innovative and creative. The library's actually been on the cutting edge in this area, and now our director, Tammy Turgeon, will update us on many new and exciting innovative services that are continuing, that really came about during the COVID era.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski, members of City Council, Mr. Vanderpool, Mr. Koszewski, and residents. As the Library Director, I'm proud to speak with you tonight about the Sterling Heights Public Library and how the 2023 budget will provide us with new service opportunities. The library is an integral part of this community, and our department's major goal is to enhance the quality of life services that we offer for our residents within the current budget. Tonight, I'm going to focus on 4 new projects and services that will be the most impactful over the next 12 months. Strategic planning, patron chat service, bike lending service, and outreach services. The pandemic changed how we provided library services to our residents and how they use the library. The library building itself was being renovated during this time, which has provided new spaces for residents such as our teen room, 3 new study rooms, and a makerspace. The library is also experiencing staffing challenges, as many other businesses have encountered, which has altered the number of programs and services that we're able to provide. We need to move the library forward with a clear plan and focus for the next 5 years that takes into account the changing role of the library in our community. We work with the city's purchasing department to issue an RFP for strategic planning services and selected Rethinking Libraries. The consultants are based in Indiana and have multiple clients in the Midwest who they have assisted in developing library plans that meet and exceed resident expectations. A kickoff meeting was held in March with library administration, and we're now gathering data for benchmarking. Staff meetings and a meeting with the library board will be held in May and June, and we will involve residents in the process with focus groups scheduled in August, both in person and virtually, as well as a community survey regarding the library. What we will gain from this process is a focus on what the priorities should be for our library services for the next 5 years and a structure for staffing to meet these community needs. And I look forward to having everyone's input and what they want from the Sterling Heights Public Library. A new service that's proposed in this year's budget is the ability to provide a chat experience for patrons to communicate with the library. Unique Patron Service Solutions chat service will expand the library's service hours without hiring new staff. The service will be available 7 days a week for 96 hours each week. We will be able to reduce the number of calls and emails to Sterling Heights Public Library staff because the service will be provided by unique staff that will be trained on the Sterling Heights Public Library's policies and procedures. This service meets patrons where they are by providing a link to the service on our library website and in our mobile app. This service will not replace our amazing dedicated staff. What it will do is provide staff with time to focus on serving our residents who are in the building, as well as provide residents who are not in the building with a fast and easy way to interact with the library. Questions that will be able to be handled through the service include those about circulation, programming, meeting room usage, location information, assistance with accessing our digital materials, and basic catalog searches. We're excited to be the first library in Macomb County to provide Unique's chat service. How about a bike ride? The library has been working for months on developing this next innovative service, and we're close to launch. Residents will be able to borrow a bike to cruise around Dodge Park. All they'll need is a library card. We'll be working with the city attorney to develop a waiver for patrons to sign in order to borrow a bike. And thanks to the Parks and Recreation Director, we've already secured 4 bikes to be purchased from Macomb Bike, and we'll also be working with them for maintenance of the service. I am meeting with the Friends of the Library regarding funding next week, and I hope to have the service up and running by June. This is a pilot project, and if successful, continuous funding of the service will be requested in the following year's budget. The library wants to be where our residents are. Outreach is how we accomplish this. We currently have 3 delivery service options. Our homebound outreach service has been providing deliveries for decades. This service provides library materials to seniors that are homebound, as well as collections of large print books for senior residence facilities in the community. The materials for this service are funded by Community Development Block Grant funds, and we're grateful to be able to support these vulnerable residents. Our second outreach option is curbside delivery. During the pandemic, library staff quickly developed a curbside delivery program due to the fact that residents could not come into the building because of pandemic rules, as well as the limited access to various areas of the building during construction. Library staff provide delivery to residents' vehicles that are parked in 2 designated spaces in the parking lot. Residents can call the number on the parking lot sign and staff will bring out items that are on hold shelves waiting for them. This service allows residents to stay in their vehicles if they have young children that they don't want to take out of car seats, or residents that have limited mobility, or if you don't want to go out into the rain. At the beginning of this service, circulation staff were serving over 2,800 vehicles per month. Although we have since welcomed residents back into the building, we still have over 100 of these deliveries each month. Our third outreach option is home delivery. The home delivery service was also developed by staff during the pandemic. Library staff are using the community relations van to deliver library materials to residents' homes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Residents can call up the library to reserve a spot, and library staff will bring them items that they have on hold and also pick up any items that need to be returned. This service was very important last year when students were attending school virtually and needed materials for classes. The library wants to be where our patrons are. Library staff are looking forward to being at various city and community events over the next year with the goal of 2 events per month. If you see us at an event, please stop by to say hello. So how can we innovate our outreach services? What about drone delivery of library materials? Over the last year, the city's intern has been researching drone delivery and how this could be used by the library. There are many advantages to drone package delivery. These include reducing traffic congestion, reducing environmental pollution, reducing delivery times, and reducing transportation costs. Current city usage of drones is through the police and fire departments. The fire department has 2 firefighters with drones, but they cannot be used on calls. Police must be called to bring a drone and pilot for calls regarding hazmat or structure fires. The police department currently has 10 pilots and they have 4 drones with varying uses. Although limited in use right now, the city's intern found that these departments are interested in expanding drone usage. The top companies right now in the drone delivery market are Amazon's Primetime Air, FedEx, UPS, DHL, and Alphabet's Wing. Wing is the only system of drone delivery in America and possibly the world that has notably worked with local government to offer books to kids. Kelly Pasick, a librarian of Montgomery County Public Schools from Christiansburg, Virginia, teamed up with Wing during the summer of 2020 to deliver library books to students while they were quarantined at home. As Wing had already chosen to run their drones in Christiansburg, Virginia, as their American test site, it was easy to add the library to their list of organizations delivering products through their app. The potential of the library having the additional option of delivery by drone could be added to the home delivery request system that the library currently uses. The drone company would then receive the notice from the library about what materials would need to be sent and where. The drone company would either deliver from the library directly or pick up from the library and deliver from their site. We would need to find a drone that has a round-trip length of 12 miles so that in theory we could service the entire city from the library grounds. FAA regulations, weather, privacy concerns, and staffing are just some of the challenges that we're looking to overcome. But being ready for drone usage is an important focus as automated transportation and delivery becomes more commonly accepted. This program and others that would involve drone usage should be reviewed in the upcoming years as the technology and public opinion advances. Although this service is currently not available locally, I'm intrigued by the research, and I will work with city staff to determine if there is a contractor that can provide this service, as well as reviewing the costs and its feasibility as another option for library outreach in the future. It is an exciting time at the Sterling Heights Public Library. From our littlest residents hearing stories to our preschoolers' positive social interactions and our adult residents' pursuits of lifelong learning. The Sterling Heights Public Library is working with our partners to provide exciting and educational experiences that we can all enjoy together to improve ourselves and our community. Sterling Heights Public Library, innovating library service. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to speak with you tonight.
And Mayor Pro Tem and Council, I wasn't kidding when I said the library's on the cutting edge. Isn't that cool? Could you imagine drone delivery service? Super cool. So moving on to our final presentation, there's two components to this presentation, and it's centered on our City Development Department, which covers so many areas, including code enforcement, facilitation of residential and commercial development across the city, which, as you can see firsthand, is significant and projected to continue for a number of years. Implementation of the city's non-motorized transportation plan and continued maintenance and improvement of the Clinton River as a recreational asset. And then, of course, road construction. We have a lot of that, as I mentioned earlier, and we're going to talk more about it in this presentation. Needless to say, there's a lot going on in each of these areas, and our director, Jason Castor, will now begin, followed by our city engineer, Brent Bayshaw.
Thank you, Mark, and good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. I'm pleased to provide you with an update on a couple topics today, focusing on code enforcement and the great natural resource in our backyard, the Clinton River. While code enforcement is not a new initiative, I would like to take some time to provide a thorough update on all that code enforcement is doing. And some of the programs have been improved or are new, as we are always looking to become more efficient. The success of our program has not gone unnoticed, as I have met with neighboring communities to discuss our program and how they can bring aspects of what we're doing here to their communities. Strong code enforcement has contributed to maintain strong property values that we see across the city. I believe this is a direct result of City Council's support of code enforcement over the years through the increase of code enforcement staff, providing necessary technology to perform and update inspections in the field with the use of iPads, providing all-wheel drive vehicles necessary to navigate the city. In addition, these vehicles have been especially helpful during our snow emergencies, in addition to providing a professional appearance, as it was difficult to cite vehicles that were junky or run down when the vehicles our code enforcement officers were driving were not much better. Code enforcement staff has doubled from 7 to 14 years since 2014. This was due to the proactive canvas model combined with additional responsibilities and new programs. Prior to the new model, code enforcement was primarily complaint-based, and the code enforcement cases support that. The numbers shown here provide a sample of how effective the program has become. With the implementation of the proactive enforcement and additional staff, enforcement cases have increased threefold to approximately 12,000 cases a year, and over the past 4 years, we have resolved almost 50,000 cases. Our process to resolve violations is not overly complicated, where the code enforcement officer will identify violations, mail the owner a notice of violation, refers the case to our administrative hearing board to abate the violation and close the case. Where Sterling Heights sets ourselves apart from other communities is with our administrative hearing board process. As a way to expedite the enforcement and resolution of violations not addressed by the homeowners, the city has established our Administrative Hearing Board. This board consists of residents of the city who were appointed by city council and are interested in making their community a better place to live. This board meets year-round and more frequently in the summer months. Also, with the addition of a Wednesday board in the summer, they review cases almost weekly, providing quick abatements. This Administrative Hearing Board meets 22 times a year to review and resolve violations. Taking into consideration that some of the 12,000 cases per year could be repeat offenders, this would correlate to over 70% of the properties in the city annually not having any issues at all. Furthermore, a very small portion of the properties need to appear before our administrative board, as shown by this chart. Property owners do a great job of contacting the code officers and working with them on a correction plan, and as a result, about 98% of the violations are corrected by the property owners. Of the 12,000 violations we come across each year, here's a list of the top 5 most common from this previous year. The violations are fairly standard from year to year. Now let's review some of the before and after pictures of these violations. For trash and debris, this violation is issued when a site has miscellaneous trash and debris scattered around the property. This picture set shows loose trash that has accumulated in the rear corner of a parking lot. Upon citing the business, they promptly addressed the issue. Outdoor storage violations occur when miscellaneous items are stored outside. In general, this issue can be resolved fairly easy by moving the items stored outside into a garage or shed, or oftentimes just throwing them away. Shown here is an example from a commercial business storing fruit and vegetable stands outside of their business, in addition to a residential property with various items stored outside. These after pictures show the properties were cleaned up and improved the look of the area. The landscape maintenance violation is cited when properties have not maintained their landscaping beds, shrubs, or trees. This can occur on residential and commercial properties, and shown here is a residential home where the landscape beds have been overrun with tall grass and weeds, and the after picture shows the hard work done by the homeowner to refresh the area. Property maintenance violations are for violations not related to the landscaping. Some of the violations can include roof maintenance, damaged gutters, broken windows, swimming pool upkeep, and so on. The picture shown here is of a wildly overgrown backyard and an unmaintained swimming pool. The after picture shows a much improved backyard. And to round out the top 5, signs littering the right-of-way are not allowed and are regularly removed. Oftentimes, the signs are not even for businesses in Sterling Heights. Over the course of a season, 1,000 signs can be removed. For repeat offenders, we will often contact the number listed and let them know if we find the sign again, we will issue a citation or even potentially a fine. And additionally, regarding repeat offenders, sometimes code officers will have to return to the same property for the same violation. When the same violation is constantly reoccurring over an extended period of time, we can request a standing order to be placed on the property from our Administrative Hearing Board. The board can impose a standing order for a time period from 3 months to a year and provide a cleanup time of 1 to 5 days. Standing orders can be applied to both commercial and residential properties and are only used in extreme situations to alleviate habitual reoccurring violations. Similar to the standing order for residential properties, we recently found the need to implement a 72-hour commercial trash tag. This is used for commercial properties with regular trash or dumpster issues. With a 72-hour tag, we will send a letter to the property owner letting them know the issues we are finding, and if the violation continues, they may be subject to the 72-hour tag, fine, and abatement. Here are some before and after pictures of commercial properties brought into compliance with the new tagging process. The areas in question were improved and continue to receive periodic inspections. I mentioned earlier that code enforcement runs various programs in addition to traditional code enforcement that were created to focus on specific categories. Some of these programs involve daily interaction with a contractor or task force. Over the next few slides, I will review rodent control, tall grass and weed enforcement, residential inspection program, and illegal grow inspections. If residents have concerns of rodent activity on their property, we ask them to please contact code enforcement to set up an inspection. This is due to the availability of the rodents to reproduce quickly, and we would like to treat as soon as possible. When you contact the city, initially a code officer will inspect the property and view the surrounding backyards for any signs of rodent activity. During the inspection, if any code violations are found that would support rodent activity, the code officer will bring those issues to the attention of the property owner to address. In most cases, when bait boxes are placed, they are provided and inspected at no cost to the owner. If you want to treat your own property, there are many resources and videos available on the internet with various methods to treat rodents, from snap traps to dry ice. I've provided some before and after pictures of some treatments that we've come across. It's not often that we find activity like the one shown on the screen, with tracks and a burrow present. The paths shown here are formed by constant activity back and forth to the rodent burrow. The owner of this property was aware of the issue and was treating on his own, but eventually reached out to the city. In this case, we were able to treat the burrow with a targeted approach and use bait boxes after to monitor. The after treatment shown here, where the holes were filled in to see if there was any return in activity, and so far we are seeing promising results at this location. A contributor to rodent harborage is tall grass and weeds. Sterling Heights enforces the noxious weed ordinance from May through early November of each year. This chart shows typical seasonal trends with a lot of activity early in the season. The enforcement of noxious weeds ordinance is a minimum standard where a tag will be placed on a property if in violation of the ordinance requiring grass and weeds to be maintained at 6 inches or less. While we tag around 1,700 to 2,000 properties per year, the contractor only services 25 to 30% of those properties. The remainder are cut by the owner. This program has been very successful over the last 4 years, bringing over 6,200 properties into compliance. This is a set of pictures showing some of the before and after pictures of properties that were serviced by our contractor over the last year. As these pictures scroll through, it is amazing to see how something as simple as cutting your grass can improve the appearance of a property. The residential inspection program started in 2013 with the adoption of our ordinance and a result of the Great Recession and foreclosure crisis. This program provides a biannual inspection for non-homestead properties. This ordinance was intended to provide assurance that bank or investor-owned properties received an exterior property maintenance inspection on a regularly scheduled basis rather than relying on a complaint-based system. This was to ensure that these properties were being maintained. In 2013, when this program started, we had over 2,000 non-homestead properties that were being inspected, and at each one of our administrative board hearings, about 50% of those properties were non-homestead. Our latest list is down to approximately 1,600 properties, and only a handful of the properties that are non-homestead turn up at our administrative hearing boards. I believe the residential inspection program and other programs that code enforcement performs keep these non-homestead properties maintained on a regular basis. Property maintenance violations like the one shown here with missing siding on the house was found and repaired as a result of this program. Illegal marijuana grow homes have become a serious problem over the last couple of years, and in an effort to address this, the city created a task force made up of staff from various departments to tackle this issue. Since we started aggressively inspecting for these properties, the city has shut down over 722 illegal grow houses and filed 73 lawsuits, most of which have been resolved prior to the first pretrial conference. These have typically been the most worst cases with multiple concerns from the city. We plan to continue this program for the benefit of our residents and our neighborhoods. Let's take a look at some of the pictures of what we've been finding. This picture shows a basement full of plants with multiple locations of unsafe, unpermitted work. Here's a picture of an electrical box on the side of the house with the meter tamper flag cut. Only DTE is allowed to remove this flag, or this tag. There's also a picture of unpermitted multiple AC units, and due to the rise in this activity, our fire marshal has implemented an order to be used as a guideline for typical AC units at a home, which is provided to the property owners when we find this instance. Code enforcement core values are focused on keeping property values high, eliminating blight, and keeping neighborhoods and commercial centers aesthetically pleasing. According to the most recent equalization values, Sterling Heights ranks as one of the top 5 cities in the entire state of Michigan. In addition, Sterling Heights ranks #1 of the top 5 local units in Macomb County. The initiatives provided by code enforcement help to maintain a property owner's house value, which is often their most valuable asset. In order to maintain and improve upon these great numbers, code enforcement will continue their hard work in addition to reviewing our older commercial centers, looking at their landscaping and parking lot conditions. Over the years, some of our commercial centers have lost some trees and shrubs and did not replace them. We have been incrementally working through the city to try and restore some commercial landscaping. This process can be time-consuming, but we have had recent success working with gas station owners. Here's a picture of a gas station sign that was not in compliance with their approved landscaping plan. And here's the after picture where the owner added rocks, shrubs, flowers around the side to improve the area. Commercial parking lots, especially if older, can be difficult to maintain, especially during the winter months with the freeze-thaw cycle to keep potholes from forming. And when they do, code enforcement will contact the maintenance group responsible for repair as soon as they can get out there. Parking lots will eventually have many patches that will continue to need constant inspecting and communication to repair. This is where we would like to see the whole area repaired and have a uniform look and to function better. We'll be reaching out to the owners of the commercial centers when we find this to work with them on a long-range plan for repair. The various programs for code enforcement reviewed today and their resulting inspections result in over 25,000 site visits per year. Code enforcement is constantly responding to proactive and complaint-based violations, keeping a vigilant eye on residential and commercial properties. Now I would like to switch to a topic that is maybe a little more enjoyable, the mighty Clinton River. The Clinton River is an awesome natural resource in our backyard and a great recreational asset as well. Now it wasn't always so great. Prior to 2015, before the city was awarded with a $4.5 million grant, the river was plagued with woody debris blockages. Part of the EPA grant project was the removal of those blockages, restoring connectivity to the river for fish and recreation. In addition, a once murky, dark river bottom is now sand or riverstone, providing a much healthier habitat. Not a day goes by in the summer walking along the path that you don't see someone fishing or a paddler floating by. Over the next few slides, I would like to review what the city is doing to keep the river blockages free and the efforts to remove trash from the river. Very important to the restoration project was not to let the river fall back into the condition that we worked so hard to undo. Shown here is an example of a woody debris blockage that was removed and a section of failing riverbank that was restored with stone protection. Realizing that the river was becoming popular with paddlers, the city entered into a public-private partnership with Clinton River Canoe and Kayak to maintain the river's navigability and perform launch and landing maintenance. From mid-April through October, Clinton River Canoe and Kayak will paddle the river weekly to ensure that the river is not blocked, providing paddlers the opportunity to use the river without the need to portage around the blockages. The paddling numbers shown here indicate a healthy interest in paddling the river. In addition to these numbers, it's safe to assume that an additional 1,000 paddlers per year use their own boats. Furthermore, recognizing the popularity of the river and the amount of novice paddlers that also are partaking in the paddling activity, the Clinton River Watershed Council has applied for a grant to add Clinton River water trail signage throughout the entire trail regarding safe river use. The sign would educate paddlers on how to tell when the river is too fast or not safe to paddle. The Clinton River Watershed Council has been a longtime partner of the city. The Watershed Council provides cleanup events throughout the watershed within and along the Clinton River. They complete 4 river runs per year, which eliminate in-stream trash with the help of volunteers and the use of Clinton River canoe and kayak boats. The watershed's river run events removed approximately 1,000 pounds of trash last year. The weekly clean events, which visit various parks in the city, removed approximately 730 pounds of trash last year, and which could also potentially end up in the river. Now, in addition to the sponsored events held by the Clinton River Watershed Council, the Clinton River Canoe and Kayak regularly removes items as they paddle the river weekly. When asked about the most common items removed, they have removed about 150 to 200 old tires and many glass bottles. When ashore, all the trash and material that is collected is sorted to recycle what they can. Exciting news is on the horizon for the Clinton River, as it was announced in February as a result of the bipartisan infrastructure law. The EPA will make significant progress in the cleanup and restoration of the Great Lakes. The EPA will use the bulk of the $1 billion investment in the Great Lakes to clean up and restore severely degraded sites known as areas of concern. This funding will provide a major acceleration in progress that will deliver significant environmental, economic, health, and recreational benefits for communities in Michigan and throughout the Great Lakes region. This work is expected to be completed by 2030, and the Clinton River Watershed Council expects to get further direction during their summer meeting with the EPA. This is truly exciting news for the health of the Clinton River and the Great Lakes. That concludes my presentation for tonight, and I thank you for your time.
I mentioned earlier that it's going to be a very busy road construction season. There's already a lot of work going on. We've made a lot of progress with our roads over the years, and it's thanks to a number of funding sources, grants, our Safe Streets millage, and the like. So our city engineer, Brent Bayshaw, will now go through our road update.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Vanderpool, Mayor Pro Tem Starosky, members of council, Mr. Koszewski. While I'm loading this, I want to start by saying I think that DEI video was awesome, and it was fantastic to see Nick and Jing up there, and for everyone get to see who they are and their personalities, because they're really outstanding employees, and I'm very fortunate to be able to work with them daily. But I'm here to present the 2022 road plan for construction, and also present the 5-year major road plan that will reach out to 2026. Before I present the 2022 plan, I'd like to look back at what has been accomplished since 2014. 2022 is the final year of a long-term plan that was developed many years ago, and the major road network as shown here has seen much work in this relatively short time frame. Roads that have been improved here are shown in orange. The total investment in the plan was $416 million when developed, and the actual investment even exceeded this amount with over $454 million in road improvements. Projects included city roads like the reconstruction of 19 Mile Road, the reconstruction of Canal Road, the reconstruction of Dodge Park Road, and also major MDOT roads were reconstructed, such as M59 and Van Dyke through our community. County road projects included the completion of DeQuinda Road, widening all the way to M59. The resurfacing of Utica Road, 14 Mile Road on the west end of the city, and North Van Dyke, just to name a few. But let's now jump into 2022. Mound Road construction is underway. We all know that. In 2022, Mound Road will be paved from north of 15 Mile Road to M59. Traffic right now is being carried on the inner 2 lanes as the outer 2 lanes are being built. And once the outer 2 lanes are complete, which is anticipated in August, traffic will be placed on these 2 lanes while the inner 2 lanes and the crossovers are constructed. So the work will take place throughout all of 22, go right all the way up to the winter. In addition to the Mound Road lane reductions during construction, however, there will be intersecting mile roads that receive various closures and lane reductions throughout the year to be able to construct these intersections. So travelers beware. Mound Road will be down lanes, but also the intersecting mile roads will be down lanes at times as well. Hayes Road will be resurfaced in 2022 from M59 to 18 Mile Road. This will clean up Hayes and complement the concrete repairs done south of 18 Mile Road a few years ago. Metro Parkway resurfacing from DeQuinder to Ryan is a project that actually began yesterday. This project addresses Metro Parkway, but also the intersection of Ryan Road, shown on the attached picture, which was a large need, and it also includes a pavement east of Ryan Road to the first crossover. Metro Parkway from east of Van Dyke to Dodge Park will also be resurfaced with a federally funded project that starts this summer. And Ryan Road is proposed to have concrete repairs done this spring to address concrete joint failure that really showed itself this winter, creating many potholes. And lastly, Plumbrook Road is proposed to be resurfaced from Utica Road to Van Dyke Avenue. This project will include some sidewalk gap completion, new mast arms at the 17 Mile Road intersection, this new signalization. And additionally, a feasibility study is currently being done to evaluate the potential use of bike lanes on the new roadway pavement. There are also some major road initiatives that I'd like to touch on that will be a focus in 2022. First, a pedestrian safety study will be done this spring for the area shown in red along Dodge Park Road and Utica Road. This area sees a lot of foot traffic with destinations such as the city center facilities, Dodge Park, and Stevenson High School on the route. And Utica Community Schools is a partner with us on this study. The City of Sterling Heights recently completed a SEMCOG-funded study to provide a path from DeQuinder Road to Van Dyke Avenue along the south side of Dobry Road. The project has a partnership with the City of Troy and the City of Utica. The project would provide great connectivity with our neighbors to the north as well, tying into Shelby Township and Rochester Hills walkways. Additionally, the project will provide a connection to the Iron Bell Trail, which goes through downtown Utica. The city has budgeted its share of the project in the Major Road Fund and will pursue a TAP grant this summer that would cover 80% of the construction costs. The city also recently finished a study of adding a pedestrian crossing, which includes a refuge island off 50 Mile Road at Van Dyke. This work will be done this summer as pedestrian activity has increased since the developing parcels on the north side of 50 Mile Road, namely 2 hotels. As mentioned on the previous slide, the city is currently evaluating the feasibility of adding bike lanes to Plumbrook Road within the road project. And lastly, the city will be pursuing a citywide traffic calming study to look for effective ways to make our roadways calmer and safer. Oops, one too far. As I mentioned earlier, this one of the city's updated its 5-year major road plan. It is included in this year's budget and covers calendar years 2022 through 2026. The plan's it's a great planning tool, but it also remains flexible as we annually revisit this plan. The plan is based on anticipated Act 51 funds and federal financing already secured during this time frame. So calendar year 2023 is the second year of the 5-year plan. In 2023, Mound Road will be constructed. It'll pick up at 15.5 Mile Road and be paved south to M50 or to 696. The paving portion of this project will take the entire year, and the restoration and final cleanup will be in 2024. Ryan Road will be resurfaced in 2023 from Metro Parkway to 18 Mile Road. This is a federally funded project. Nearly 2 miles of 14 Mile Road will be resurfaced in 2023 from Hayes Road to Maple Lane. This county road project will also involve the city of Warren, who are planning to relocate the water main under the pavement this year in advance of the road project. Shaner Road resurfacing at the northern limits of the city is also within our 2023 plan. And lastly, the 17-mile road bridge east of Van Dyke will receive a new deck and replacement of the deteriorated concrete beams. The city has secured a federal grant for this project as well, which covers 95% of the construction funding. Of the 11 city vehicle bridges, this is the only one in poor condition. It'll be a major asset to our bridge system in the city. The total improvement plan for 2023 is $54.4 million. In 2024, 50-mile road will be resurfaced between Van Dyke and Mound Road. This project received federal funding. Metro Parkway is allocated with funds to address the section between Ryan Road and Mound Road. And Moravian between Shaner and Hayes has funds allocated for this improvement. The total road improvement value for 2024 is $8.3 million. In 2025, 17-mile road will be resurfaced between Mound and Van Dyke. This is a project that received federal funding as well. Oops, went too far. 14-mile road will be addressed between Van Dyke and Maple Lane, and this is a federally funded project as well. And 18-mile road resurfacing from Utica Road to Mound Road, to just east of Mound Road, I should say. Dobie Road is also planned to be addressed east of Ryan Road in this time frame. And the total improvement for 2025 is $9.25 million. In the final year of our 5-year plan, in 2026, 15-mile road will be resurfaced from Van Dyke to Maple Lane, federally funded project as well. Funds are allocated for Shoreline Drive and Maple Leaf Drive reconstruction from the bridge over the Red Run to Volpe Drive. The total improvement value for 2026 is $5.7 million. So in total, the roads highlighted have fundings currently allocated for improvement. This total road improvement value based on this 5-year period is over $206 million. And just to reiterate, this 5-year plan is fluid. It will be reevaluated annually based on needs, funding levels, and funding sources. Back to 2022, we also have an extensive local road construction projects. $5.2 million of capital improvements are in store. Shown here are a few examples of the streets in the road program. Streets such as Cavant, which has had some work DPW did to buy us some time, Mint Court, Sebastian Lane, and Ashby Drive, which is actually an entrance to Oak Brook School that the UCS was very happy to have done this upcoming year. Shown here is a listing of the 20 local roads that received full reconstruction this year. We will have the list provided under the cone zone on the website very shortly. The 20 roads total 3.5 miles of reconstruction, and they're Mill Pond Drive, Red Oak Drive, Woodford Drive, Fordwich, Cooper Drive, DeGrove, Barcroft Way, Rockingham, Torrington, and Ashburton, Lancaster Drive, Colfax Drive, Mint Court, Mandale, Slay and Steed Drive, Tulane Drive, Cavant, Orban, and Malibu. In addition to the 20 roads receiving full reconstruction, 12 roads will see significant improvement with our sectional road replacement program. These 12 locations provide 1.3 miles of concrete replacement. They have Marksway Court, McRae Drive, Pickett Ridge, Streamview and Suffield Lane, Hirsch Row and Lodge, Shane Drive, Iroquois, Sebastian Lane, and Ashby will all receive sectional repairs. In total, 32 roads will receive capital improvement totaling 4.8 miles of local roadway reconstruction. Overall, the local road network continues to improve since the inception of Safe Streets Millage in 2013. The number of roads in good condition have now increased from 7% to 22%. So as I conclude this presentation, I'd like to end with a few things that we'll be implementing this summer. One is a text alert system that we are integrating for enhanced communication in our road projects. And the other are sidewalk gap completion projects that will be one of the largest in the history, but more information will be forthcoming on those projects. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, that concludes our presentations this evening. I'd just like to take a moment to thank our directors and managers here tonight. They've spent months working with our finance team led by Jennifer Varney, preparing the budget and all the requests and analyzing their operations inside and out and preparing for the presentations. And I think you would agree they've done a phenomenal job. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vanderpool. I also agree. Very good job, everybody. So at this time, we will go out to questions in the audience. Is there, and then after the audience has had a chance to participate, council, we can make a motion to introduce the appropriations ordinance. So at this time, council, is there anybody in the audience that needs to make any comments? So seeing none, council, we can do comments. Any council? No. Wait.
Introduce the ordinance first. Introduce the ordinance.
Okay, so if there is no one else, then can we, at this time, we're going to close this portion of our meeting and go to introduce the ordinance. So we're going to introduce the ordinance, council. Is there anyone who would like to introduce this ordinance? Do I have a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes,
Sarowski?
yes, Mrs. Yarko.
Okay. Resolve to introduce the appropriations ordinance for the fiscal year 2022-2023. Support.
So it's been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mrs. Yarko?
I'm going to wait. I just wanted to make sure that we got the motion on the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Schmidt.
Sure, I'll start. I don't have much. I just have a few comments and a couple of questions. First of all, thank you to everyone in administration and all the departments. A lot of work goes into these budgets, and I know not everyone or no one gets everything they ask for. So we appreciate your flexibility and working with us and getting this done. Just a couple of comments. First of all, you're right, the DEI, I had a tear in my eye. I seriously did. It was amazing, and I'm really proud of all the work that you all are putting in, and all of us as a whole, because we're all included in that. I think it speaks volumes as to how we care about our community and how we care about our employees and their environment. So keep up the good work, and I look forward to more reports forthcoming. And through the chair to, well, you know what, Mr. Bashaw, since you're sitting there, I just have a couple of things. You mentioned Maple Lane from Volpe to 14 Mile will be done in 2026. Is that widening? I mean, I know we're waiting for a development to commence over at Maple Lane, so is that why we're holding off? And will it be widened with a center turn lane? I know there's going to be a sidewalk going in.
Yeah, so the idea was, I guess first of all, we don't have the full road right away across the golf course. We only have 33 feet, so it's hard to do any type of expansion until the golf course is developed and we get the right of way. With that said, I think that's one of the roads we have to watch because it's in very bad condition, and I'm not sure that we can wait that long to do that larger capital improvement. We might have to do something intermediate.
That was going to be my next comment.
Yeah.
Because right now your teeth chatter when you go down from CPC to 14 Mile, I can tell you, I've been riding on a school bus the last 2 days, 4 times, so.
Okay.
It is a mess. It's a mess. We have to be able to patch a little better than what is done there right now. And Moravian is another, from Shaner to Hayes, you said it in 2024. That's just as bad as Maple Lane. So I think we need to get on the county because that's their road. And they need to take care of business over there because it is deteriorated beyond. And they keep patching every other week. The cold patch trucks are there, and the next day it's in the, gutters of the street. So those 2 roads are really horrific. Which brings me to my next comment, and without objection from my colleagues on council, I'd like to instruct administration to formally request that the county give us their plan to address the crumbling, unsafe conditions of the walls and median of the 16-mile bridge over the railroad tracks. They are crumbling powder, and it's a safety issue. It's not aesthetics anymore. It's a safety issue. You have people going up and over train tracks, and it is just a matter of time before it's not going to take much for a car to go through. So if, without objection, if we could pursue that through the county, we need to know what their plan is because it's an unsafe situation. The bridge may be stable, but those walls are not. So, and through the chair to Ms. Turgeon.
So before we go further, is there any objection, council, to anything? Okay, very good. So you have everything you need? Okay, very good. I just wanted to make clear. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mrs. Schmidt.
No, I'm waiting for Ms. Turgeon.
Okay.
Can you just explain to me, first of all, kudos to you with the whole drone thing. I'm intrigued on that. But can you explain to me the difference between the homebound delivery and home delivery?
Sure, the homebound delivery is for our senior residents that are not able to get to the library. It's funded through CDBG funds. The residents that are signed up for that program receive a monthly delivery to their homes. They work with a librarian to select items for themselves, to have that delivered by a staff person. So they have no way to get to the library.
So do they have to qualify for that?
Yes.
Okay.
They do have to, either be homebound, and it can be a temporary situation. If you've been in the hospital and you're not able to leave, we can sign you up temporarily for the service, but most of our users of the service are homebound. They can't get out of bed. They have no way to get to the library. The home delivery service is available to anybody. You can sign up for any of our open spots, and we will bring items to your home, and we'll pick up your overdue, items so that they're not overdue. So those are the 2 systems we set up. The homebound has been in service for decades, but the home delivery started because we had a lot of kids that were doing home, were at home doing virtual school, parents that needed materials. We weren't open all the time or as many hours or weren't as accessible, so we started the home delivery program. Luckily, Community Relations was willing to let us use their van, and that service has been really well received.
So as we're getting back to normal, have you seen that service kind of decrease because people are coming back to the library?
Yes, we have seen that statistic. Even in the last just 2 months, visits back to the in-person library building have doubled. So we're hoping that continues, but we want to provide an option and see where that goes. If it's not needed as much, we haven't expended any extra funds for the service. It's just been a convenience for residents.
Okay. And the bikes, I think, is an awesome idea.
Yeah, we're really excited about that.
Yeah, and thanks to the collaboration with Parks and Recs as well. It's just another example of us working together to get things for our residents, and I appreciate that. Other than that, Ms. Varney, you helped us lower our millage, and I appreciate that. What I did hear was, since our fire station bond is expiring this year, that maybe next year we'll be able to lower it maybe a little bit more. So I look forward to that as well. And good job. That's all I really have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Council, anyone else?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Radke. Go right ahead.
Thank you. I guess I will start with some comments on the diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. I think they are tremendous. I was a big proponent of this. I brought this motion forward. I think it's stark in where we are, but I think that working together, we are going to quickly improve some of our statistics that we found in that survey. I did not know it was as stark as it was, but it's good to have data, because with data, we can now start to make improvements. I look forward to reading the report. I guess it's going to be in our binders this week. But one thing I would ask is also to evaluate per department, because I think that different departments, as engineering has shown, they have really stepped up their game, and we should look at all of our departments holistically to make sure that we don't have some departments that are over excelling where other ones are lagging behind. So we can make sure we bring them all up together. You know, a rising tide raises all boats. But I thought the presentation was excellent, and I really look forward to your efforts. The library services, I agree with my colleagues. It's tremendous, this bike program. I think we're going to be buying more bikes. I think it's going to be very popular. You know, it kind of gets around the issues that we've had with trying to lure someone here to give like MGO bikes. But I'm hopeful that if it proves its value, maybe we can lure a vendor into this to get us out of the business and get someone else into the business. Through the chair to City Development Director, Mr. Castor. You said in your presentation that we have 6 standing orders for habitual violators. And I have to know that there's one of them in my father's neighborhood on Dryden. And I'm curious because I guess I'm going to ask, without objection, to task the city attorney with creating an ordinance to hold these habitual violators to an account. Right now, if I'm not mistaken, we just go and we fix the violation and then we charge on their taxes. Is that correct, Mr. Castor?
Yeah, that is correct. So I'm not 100% on the specifics on that case, but what would happen was, in lieu of taking it to our administrative board, we bypass that process through the standing order. We would put a violation on the door citing that there is a violation and point it out. They'd have X amount of days, 2 days to correct it. And if they don't, our contractor would show up and abate the violation. And then any work that they done, yes, is sent out as an invoice. And if not paid, goes on their taxes.
So this house on Dryden, which we've talked about before, has never cut their grass in the 5 years I've been on the city council. They has never once shoveled their snow in the 5 years I've been on city council. It's a standing order. It's a real like abscess in the neighborhood, because I have so many neighbors who stop by when I'm at my dad's house to tell me how much they hate this house, and it's sad because the property owner actually lives in the city very locally. So I'm hopeful that the city attorney, without objection, could prepare an ordinance to hold them civilly liable, maybe through a fine or something, because while it's good that we're holding them to account or putting on their taxes, that's not inspiring them to do the work. We're just now become the maintenance vehicle for this home. We only have 6 of these, but they seem to be people who have not gotten the program. They refuse to obey. So maybe we need to fine them. I know the city fine limit's up to $5,000 or whatever, but maybe we need to create a sliding scale to personally fine them on top of the property fine. Because at this point, I don't think they're getting the message. So without objection, I'd ask the city attorney to look into that, to see if we can create an ordinance to hold these 6 habitual violators to account.
I do have an objection to that. So, and then my objection would be that there may be extenuating circumstances, so we maybe want to look into that. And does anybody else have an objection?
Well, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski. I guess I would have a couple of questions, and one would be, is this just something we could amend our ordinance, or you wouldn't actually need a new one? And the second, but I have to agree with Mrs. Sarowski, you don't know the circumstances, but I wanted to know how many of these habitual offenders are actually, they're rentals. And they're actually people that don't live in the home that they own. So that would be something else too, because, is the tenant or is the owner notified about the violation? That would be another question to answer. Nothing further.
I think Mr. Koszywski wants to say something too.
Yeah, Mr. Koszywski, you can weigh in.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. What I'd like to do is provide a report to council on the various avenues we have, because there are multiple ways that we can address this. The OBA board is what we've used because it gives full due process in the quickest manner. There are other ways to do things through ticketing and also through taking circuit court abatement actions. So it's not that we don't have avenues to take on the books already. OBA's been giving us the quickest avenue to get the redress we want. So instead of drafting a new ordinance, I'd like to give you a report on what those options are so that you understand fully the choices you have.
I'll amend and ask for the report then. That's fine.
Okay.
So hopefully we can solve some of these problems. And for the record, the house on Dryden is not owner occupied. It's just vacant. It's,
It's fake.
yeah, it's been vacant for 10 years or more.
So there are, that's even worse.
Other extenuating.
Yeah, there's even more.
Well, I mean, the owner lives 3 blocks away. You can walk there. Thank you, Mr. Castor. Through the chair to our city engineer, Mr. Bayshaw.
Mr. Beige.
Reviewing your report, we've seen tremendous action taking over about $500 million, $500 million on our local roadways. And in your proposal, there's another $206 million to be spent in the next 5 years. I'm hopeful and curious, have we ever done a needs assessment for our local roadway program? Because we are repairing these roads and they're costing us a significant amount of our budget. And I'm wondering, have we studied and actually decided that we need all the roads that we have currently? Do we need to keep adding lanes? Could we take lanes away? Could we change our local road structure? Because it strikes me right now, we're throwing more money after more money after more money into our local roadway system. And if I ask the average resident of Sterling Heights, they won't tell you it's improved. All I hear are complaints. It's just worse and worse and worse. Now, we know it's getting better because we're putting money into it. But I'm wondering if we've assessed the entire roadway infrastructure of our city to say, maybe we don't need all these roads. Maybe we don't need to widen Maple Lane. I live on Maple Lane. I don't think it needs to be widened, personally. I don't need more cars in front of my place, but that's just me. But I mean, I guess we keep on making our roadways bigger. We're adding a lane to Mound, which I think is silly. We keep on adding more, which we're going to have to pay for in the future. Because just as we pay for it now to be widened, we're going to have to resurface it in 10 years. We're going to have to redo it in 30 or 40 years. We're just adding more and more infrastructure for us to maintain. And we don't seem to be adding as much population. We seem to be adding more infrastructure. So I'm curious, have we done a total assessment of our entire roadway system in Sterling Heights to decide whether we should be spending all this money?
Well, I guess the short answer is no, we haven't, but the long answer is really, as part of the federal aid committee, which disperses the federal funds, there really is a shortage of funding, and what the federal aid committee is looking at is trying to preserve the pavement, preserve the surface the best we can, because the reality is there isn't really funding to do many capacity projects. We look under every rock. We do a good job of trying to find things, trying to find funding sources. But for instance, the Mound Road grant, and that was the first grant that was ever given out to an agency that was not a state agency. That was the first locally. So that was the first of its kind in the nation. But that's what we had to do to try to get a reconstruction. In reality, the county has about $15 million in federal aid to disperse every year. If you think about that, the county-wise has $15 million to disperse the entire county. That's us, Warren, Chesterfield, Macomb Township, Shelby Township. That's not a lot of money when you think about resurfacing 5 miles of road is $2 million. And so really we're kind of in a preservation type mindset, except for these special cases where we're trying to do something special. And in those cases, we do try to come up with master plans to do something.
Well, the reason I ask is you made my point even more clearly than I could have, which is that we are expending almost every resource we can to repair what we have. And we're falling behind. And it's not our fault, it's our system's fault, essentially. And as an engineer, I'm sure you're familiar with the term induced demand. Like, if we keep expanding roads, we're just gonna induce people to drive on these roads, which then forces us to continue expanding them and continue reconstructing them. So I'm hopeful that we can do an assessment of all of our roadways and decide, do we need all this pavement? Maybe we need fewer lanes. Maybe we can shunt major people who are driving through our city and not to our city to the county-funded roads, the state-funded roads, and not have to pay for them through our own pockets here in Sterling Heights. Because it's costing us to the tune of $750 million. I think that's the biggest budget line in the entire city. And I don't see anything we're gaining from it, honestly. I think that it's costing us a lot of money, and it doesn't seem to be improving situations. Maybe we should think about, for example, if we have a big house and we're constantly repairing our house, maybe we should downsize our house so we don't have so much to repair. We can maybe get ahead of the curve. Maybe that requires us to make our roads a little bit more narrow, for example. Maybe it requires us to take away a lane in some areas, which we're going to do on North Van Dyke, because then we don't have to maintain that lane into the future. And I guess on that, I also think we should be working on our road projects to completely fix the roadway when we work on it. You know, if we're going to do a road project like Plumbrook, we should do the road, we should do the sidewalk, we should plant street trees, we should pave the bus stops and make them more wholesome and continuing. You know, right now we have a piecemeal approach. And I think that as a city engineer, when you're thinking about all, because you do all that, you do sidewalks and you do roadways, let's put it all under one roof. If we're gonna fix, say, Ryan Road from 14 to 15, I'm making up a number, right? Let's just do it all right. Let's do it all at once. So that way we can see a real improvement on the roadway. Because I feel like we are constantly, we're doing street trees here, and then we're doing sidewalk here, and then we're doing roadway here. If we have all the people and the stuff in one place, let's do it all at once. Maybe we don't have to fix as many, but maybe we fix them better and we improve the entire city all at once. And with that, I just have some questions for Mrs. Varney. So thank you, Brett.
Yep.
I appreciate it. Just very curious, you know, we talked about our bond debt and our interest rates and some of how long some of it is. In the current interest rate environment, which is increasing but is still very low, do we have any capacity or ability to refinance some of our bonds if they're higher interest rates? Or what is the average interest rate on our bonds, through the chair to Mrs. Varney?
Well, the most recent bonds we issued last year were under 2%, which was fantastic.
Right.
Obviously, I'm not expecting that in these current ones, probably more like 3%. But when you issue a bond, there's a period of time that you can't refinance. I believe for our bonds we're issuing in April, I believe it's around 10 years. So after that, yeah, we definitely refinance when we can, but our bond council looks at that all the time. So right now, we don't have any bonds that we can refinance, but we absolutely watch for it and do it when we can.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm very happy to see that our pension plans have been overperforming like I predicted last year. I remember we talked about this explicitly. I guess I am curious, though, why we're continuing to add even more to our pension funds over our estimates from our fiduciaries. I thought the whole plan was to get them on the right track so that our numbers would make sense. And now that we have, I'm curious why we're continuing to put money into them. Not because it's a bad thing. I think our pension plans are on the right track to be 100% whole, but we have to let the market do some of the work, too. It's not just on us to keep pushing money into them. Some of it's the returns on the market. And I guess the final thing I'll say is I'm really hopeful that we could fix something that's been on the board since I was elected to city council, which is a total updating and fixing of our zoning ordinance map. It's been proposed every year. I've been on this council for $300,000. You said that we have $300,000 we are going to put into our rainy day account. I think that we should take that money and redo our zoning map. Because a lot of what we're doing, you know, we're doing a tree study, we're doing all this stuff, but without proper zoning, I think a lot of what we're doing is we're just spinning our wheels. We need to update the map to fix our zoning, and then we can kind of roll off the tree map, all the other maps, the different plans, North Van Dyke, all this stuff kind of goes hand in hand with a proper zoning map. The current zoning map, forgive me if I'm wrong, it was either done in 1987 or 1989. So I was either 2 years old or I was 4 years old when our current zoning map was formulated. And I think there's been a lot of changes to society, to everything since I was 2 or 4 years old. And I think it's incumbent upon us to fix this problem because we keep pushing it back. This is year 5. And I think if we push it back, it'll be year 6, it'll be year 7. So I guess I'm going to ask the city to prepare a budget amendment for $300,000 to fix our zoning map. I don't know if it'll be supported by my colleagues, but I definitely will bring it forward in our final meeting of this whole thing. And with that, that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Radke. Council, anyone?
Me next.
Sure, Mrs. Koski, go right ahead.
Looks just like her.
I was,
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
thank you.
In regard to the zoning map, when I was elected back in '89, seems to me we did a update of the zoning map at that time. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but.
Could be, yeah. It's 1980s is when it was done, 1987, 89, something like that.
Yeah, it was early 90s. And I know that we have made changes, rezonings throughout the years. So I guess what you're asking for is to just have a zoning map that reflects what we currently have? Is that all?
So what I'm asking for, to be more clear, is right now our zoning ordinance is very unclear. For example, we have C1, C2, and C3 commercial. We have R60, R80, R120 residential. We have O1, O2 office. And most presentations in most cities have now eliminated most of these categories. They now have one office classification, and they let the city decide how that works administratively. We give the administration more authority to, because I'll be honest, if you ask the average citizen the difference between C1, C2, and C3 commercial, they can't explain it. I don't think most developers can explain it. And frankly, I can't explain it. So I think that we could both shrink our categories. We have a zoning classification for parking. Do we zone things for parking now? It's been on the books for years. We just rezoned something from parking. But for example's sake, it doesn't make any sense. It's just there. We should eliminate that. We should bring our overlay districts into compliance, because right now the master plan does not match the zoning map in a lot of places. So it would be both making the zoning reflect the master plan, but also simplifying and making easier our entire zoning map to attract both development and make it easier on people. Because honestly, we don't need 3 classifications of commercial property. We don't need 2 classifications of offices. I think we still need 2 of light versus heavy industrial, but I don't think we need a lot of the things that are in the map that made sense at the time, which have gone out of fashion. Almost any city that's updating their map now eliminate tremendous numbers of categories like this.
Through the chair to our city attorney. What he's asking for, the way I understand it, is a redoing of our commercial code. Am I misunderstanding that? In other words, we have our residential designation, we have our commercial designation. Do we need to start from scratch and rewrite everything?
Mr. Koszubski, can you please explain what the, well, let me rephrase. Mr. Radke, are you asking to completely redefine all zoning code, or what are you asking?
I think we, one, need to simplify it, but 2, this has been on the calendar for us to do for it's in the budget every year for the 5 years I've been on council, and every year it's not been funded. So it's not something that I'm proposing. It's something that's been proposed by city administration. What I'd like is to go even further than the city administration. I don't want to eliminate residential zoning. I don't want to eliminate commercial zoning, but I want to make it easier for people to do business in Sterling Heights, which I think should be all of our, right now I think we have so many classifications, it almost makes it hard to do business here.
So let me, what it sounds to me like is that you are asking to redefine our zoning.
Correct, to make it match our master plan.
Mr. Koszubski?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski. I believe, if I'm hearing Mr. Radke correct, he would like to have administration prepare a motion for an amendment to the budget to include a wholesale review and change of the zoning ordinance. Is that what I understand?
That is accurate.
So I think that's what the ask is tonight.
Yes, please, Mr. Vanderpool.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski. I fully understand what Councilman Radke is requesting. We've had many discussions regarding this over the last couple of years. It's not that we've been requesting and this has been denied. It's simply a matter of priorities and funding allocations for the city. And most importantly, it's more of a philosophical discussion as well, more so than it is our zoning ordinance being out of date. We have repeatedly updated the zoning ordinance with numerous amendments and different best practices over the years and so on. So in that respect, our zoning ordinance is functional. The development world that we deal with is certainly knowledgeable of it. There's nothing in there that's out of the ordinary in terms of being a progressive ordinance, in terms of collapsing zoning districts and allowing C1 districts or C3 districts in C1 districts. You know, that's a philosophical issue that the city council would have to come to terms with. You know, is that something that you want? And maybe it is, and it's could be a good thing, but it certainly, there are some consequences to some of this as well. For example, Councilman Radke and I have talked about, you know, should we allow ancillary dwelling units, which would also likely be included in residential areas as part of a rewrite of our zoning ordinance. That too is a philosophical issue. Is that something that the city council wants to do? It could be a very good thing. It could help with affordability for people who want to rent out, redo their garage and rent it out, or add on to their home and create an apartment unit, a dwelling unit that can be rented out as either an in-law quarters or even an outside. These are some of the common practices in new zoning ordinances, if you will. So the point is, a lot of this requires some philosophical discussion as well. It's not a simple matter of let's spend $300,000 and update the zoning ordinance and then bam, we're good to go. There are consequences, and you do need some engagement with the community, residents and businesses alike. So it's a little more complicated than saying, let's just do it. I appreciate what you're saying, but one of the things we're doing, as council knows, we're scheduling a follow-up strategic planning session in June to get more direction from city council on some of these more complicated ideas. It's a good idea that Councilman Radke is bringing up. We just need clear direction. We can certainly get it done. That's not the tough thing. If you want to allocate $300,000, we can get it done. It'd probably take us 18 months or so to get it done. But the important thing is the philosophical discussion and how does it rank with other priorities that you all have on your list of things to get done as well. You probably all have of these lists. So in the meantime, in the interim, we have made our development process very more streamlined than it ever has been. Developers now can submit their plans electronically. The reviews go quite quick. All of our reviews are done in a virtual world now, if you will. Including residents can submit their plans virtually now and so on. So in terms of interpretation of the zoning ordinance and requirements and so on, we've streamlined that significantly. And Sterling Heights is, I would say, the epicenter for development right now in southeastern Michigan. There's a lot of development going on. So it's not as though our zoning ordinance is hindering development. So I could go on and on. I don't want to bore you with this discussion. I just think we need to have a little more direction from council and debate. I'm not sure you're going to get there just in this budget hearing process. You know, I'm not sure you're going to get there on the last budget hearing for getting enough information to make a final decision. I think we need a little more collaboration.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vanderpool. So let me back it up a minute. So, Mr. Radke, are you asking for?
I just asked for the budget amendment to be prepared. We can have a vote on it. That's up to, I could just make the motion, but I'd rather have the city attorney write it so it's correct.
Are you asking for consensus from council to have that budget amendment prepared?
I mean, you could deny it, I'll just make it at the meeting. I mean, that's on the city council, I guess, yeah.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Mr. Yanis.
Yes. So I appreciate what Mr. Radke is asking for. I mean, we're going through a number of things right now, you know, with PUDs, and Mr. Vanderpool is absolutely correct. We are probably the epicenter of development in Southeast Michigan. But, you know, we do consider ourselves a progressive community when it comes to doing things like this. And we also have a visioning plan, and part of the visioning plan should be, what does this city look like, and certainly planning is part of that. One of the things that Mr. Vanderpool said that sort of raised a red flag with me is he called our plan functional. You know, that's like just getting by, functional. But what I will say is I would like to hear more on this topic. You know, I'll fully admit planning is not my forte, but you know what? We have a planning director that is his forte. And I would like to hear from him on this topic in a deeper way. I don't know that I'm ready to spend $300,000 on what Mr. Radke is asking for right now, but I do think this deserves a robust discussion on how we move forward in this city with planning. So I'm just going to leave it there. I think we need to hear more from our city planner, and we need to delve a little bit deeper into this topic as we do things like North Van Dyke and Lakeside Mall. And, you know, do we put a PUD where 01 is right now that's coming up in front of city council? You know, there's going to be a lot of changes in the city. Things have changed, and we need to change with them, and we need to be more than just functional. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Yanis. Mrs. Gasky, did you want to finish? You did have the floor.
Yes.
Okay. That's okay.
That's coming back to it.
I knew you had the floor. You were actually just standing in line, or standing on the side waiting.
Patiently is
Yeah,
what
I
was doing.
appreciate that. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Radke has a good idea, but I really feel strongly that we need more information. We need to have some discussion with our director there. And we do have a strategic planning meeting coming up. I think it's June 11th or something like that. I think that would be a great topic. And we all know that we can amend this budget anytime we need to amend it. But we need to know what we're going to do before we do it. That's my only point. Okay. To continue on, DEI. I'm really impressed with their presentation today. Ms. Baldwin and Ms. King, you did a fantastic job. I'm really pleased with the results of your report today. I do have just one question. Are you sharing any of your analysis with the African American Coalition?
That is a good question. We didn't have it on the docket to share with them. That's not because, you know, we don't want to, but certainly it is information that we are going to disseminate throughout the organization to the employees. So we do have a communication strategy developed for that, and I can work with Melanie Davis from Community Relations on disseminating it to, you know, the African American Coalition. I do have a presentation that I'm scheduled to present on DE&I with the Community Alliance. That's coming up in April. So certainly, you know, we do have some outreach to some of the commissions and whatnot, and I'm more than happy to share it with the African American Coalition.
Well, that would be my suggestion because it's good information and I think they might appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
And of course, council would appreciate any updates that you have for us in writing.
Absolutely.
And this learning and development plan, which is going to be the next phase in 2023, is that correct?
Phase 2 is going to consist of the development of the employee focus groups, as well as the development of the DE&I strategy, the plan, the DE&I strategic plan. So that is due to be completed by the end of the summer, that phase, the development of the focus groups and that DE&I strategic plan. And then in the fall is when we're going to launch those development plans or the training.
I said only one question, but one more. The ARP monies, the funds that we do have available, is there any part of your program that would request any of those funds? And if so, could you let us know?
Yes, and I'm not aware of the funding for this DE&I journey is coming from, I think Jennifer might be able to better answer this question than I. It's not coming from the ARPA funding.
The point that I was making is I listened to the mayor of Detroit's State of the City speech and how he plans on helping Detroit grow. How some people, and certainly this doesn't apply to Sterling Heights, I'm just saying this as an example. Certain people wanted to apply for positions, for jobs, because his idea was to put everyone to work, give everyone a job. And some of them could not pass the test for the employment because they had some reading difficulties, as an example. So what he was doing is he was setting up programs where he was setting aside funding to teach these, not just young people, but adults, how to read, so that they then could make out the application, fill out the application to apply for the job, to be trained for full-time employment. We seem to have a difficulty in not attracting the diverse group, is the message that I'm getting. That's one of the hurdles that you're trying to overcome to get that percentage up from 2%. Is there any kind of program that Sterling Heights would be offering to help them as applicants? And I'm not just referring to African American, I'm talking to any of that 2%, that we could assist with an education of some kind to qualify them for the positions that they're applying for?
Well, that is a fantastic question. And the short answer is, right now, we don't have anything defined that would be able to meet that sort of framework or program. However, through the DE&I strategy that we're going to be developing with the employee council, so it's important to note that our DE&I employee council is going to be the ones that are really going to be the driving force behind this strategy, along with our employee focus groups. And so one of the biggest pieces that we will be looking at is the talent acquisition process, our recruitment process. And so we are in this process going to be looking at how can we expand the scope of creating a more diverse pool of candidates, if you will. And so it very may well be that we're looking at programs that you described to help expand that candidate pool, to make it more diverse. So right now there's nothing definitive, but there's going to be a lot that comes out of that DE&I strategy that's going to be developed.
Oh, don't forget what I said.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Public Library, Tammy, you are amazing. I'm glad that we get you all back to ourselves. The bike lending program is really attractive. Do you need some more bike stands? If you do, let us know.
Well, we have our 4 colorful shaped bike stands that we're going to have the bikes on. They'll be locked, and circulation staff will take patrons to the bikes and unlock them for them. And the circulation staff's really excited about it. I was worried that they were gonna not be too happy about circulating bikes, but they're really excited too.
Well, you know, standing out in front of the library, getting signature over the years and seeing those bike stands, when you mentioned bike lending, I thought that was a tremendous idea. This patron chat, would you explain that a little bit more?
Sure. A lot of websites now that you see, retail websites, when you get on a website, it'll pop a little box out to the right side and it'll say, do you want to chat? Do you have a question? Especially like sales websites. So this will kind of do the same thing. Do you have a question? Do you need help? If a patron does, they can just type right on while they're on the website, hey, are you open? Hey, I need help downloading my ebook. And then the staff member will be able to chat with them online instead of them having to make a phone call or come into the library. It's just another option for patrons, so we're able to reach them wherever they are.
And don't you have a program for seniors, something to do with memory enhancement?
We used to subscribe to Brain HQ. That's not something we have any longer. Usage declined, so we moved our money to other databases.
And I thought that was so good.
I know, I liked it too.
And I like your idea about the drone delivery. You certainly are on the cutting edge. You're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, and I want to thank Brooke, the city's intern, who did a lot of research. Mr. Vanderpool and I got really excited about it, and Brooke took it upon herself as part of her job to do the research, and not that it can be done tomorrow, but I think looking at that as a future possibility, whether it's for the library or another city department, I think it's going to be something really exciting to see. All the research shows that it is billions of dollars are going into drone delivery research, so it's exciting.
And too, I know that you take donations for Friends of the Library and for the different programs that you have there. Do you have anything on your website that will tell people what you will accept, what you will take?
Yes, our website does have all the information as far as our Friends of the Library used but Sterling bookstore. We're having a Friends Board meeting next week, like I had mentioned, and we're going to be talking about having larger donation days. I know we used to be able to have people just bring carloads of used books to donate, and unfortunately we don't have the number of volunteers like we used to, and the store isn't open as many hours, so we're going to be talking about developing some larger donation days to help people bring us larger donations and us being able to accept them.
And if somebody wants to volunteer, you also have that information on there that...
Yes, there's a application form right on the website to volunteer for the bookstore or for any library volunteer work that they're interested in.
Very good.
And they could use the chat feature in the future, and we'd let them know how to do that.
Very good. You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you, Mrs. Scott.
Thank you. Code enforcement, Mr. Castor. I understand that you said that you handle rodent control. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the number that they are to call, that's directly to code enforcement? And where is that number on the website? Is it under code enforcement or? In other words, I had a resident call me recently that they were aware of a rodent problem. And who do I call? Who do I contact? How do I do this? I really don't want them to know it was me. So is there some way that you can suggest that a resident could call and say, I think there's an issue across the street?
Yeah, so there's a couple avenues in which they could probably reach out to us anonymously. One is the C-Click Fix feature. It's on the front page of the city's website. You can click on that. You can report any issue anonymously, or if you want, you can provide an email or a contact, which would provide you an update that says, basically, thank you, we've routed this and we'll be looking into it. Or by calling that number, anybody who calls in with a complaint, we keep their information anonymous, especially if they make a note to remain anonymous. We would definitely uphold that and not, tell them that the neighbor across the street or whoever has a concern on your property. But that number is on the website. It's for code enforcement and any issues for rodent concerns. We have a code officer, and that's basically what he focuses on. He's the same officer that goes out on all of these, so he's very familiar with what to look for, what are some concern signs, and they would talk with the resident after that and let them know with what they have seen, if it is a concern that will be investigated, or that it was maybe a possum or raccoon or something like that.
And there's no tickets issued or anything like this. They're given information so that they know how to clean up, what to look for, to clean up the property and eliminate the problem. Now, do we have a company that comes out and sets traps? And are those traps safe for animals like pet dogs and?
Yeah, so we recently switched vendors, and we're with Elrich Pest Control. I believe they're a leader, in this business. They're a national company. Actually, I think they're worldwide. They reported recently that they use the most sophisticated boxes for the rodent bait that they put in there. The boxes are locked, can only be unlocked by a key, and they are weighted with a stone in there so a dog or a kid or somebody couldn't drag it away. And in addition to that, I guess the way to get into these boxes is very tight, so you couldn't bring out a large piece of this and have an animal get access to it. It's only big enough so that you can bring out a very tiny piece and eat it, and then I guess take it back to their den and share it, or however the process goes.
Do you handle skunks also?
We do not. For skunk issues, we would refer those to animal control. If we do see them, so when we're out there, a lot of skunk would be like digging holes, but they don't burrow similar to a rodent would. And if we saw something that would be a skunk versus a rodent type of activity, we would refer it to animal control for if they offer any trapping or relocation options for them.
Now, do you also handle roads? Roads, like Ryan Road?
I mean, through city development and engineering, we would, be.
My question on Ryan Road, can you answer it, or do I talk to Mr. Bradshaw?
You sure?
Either or. I mean, if I can, I would definitely defer to Mr. Bayshaw.
I lived right off of Ryan Road, 14 and a half in Ryan Road for 30-plus years. Started out as a two-lane road. I had a streetlight right at the end of the road so I could get out of the subdivision. Now it's a 5-lane. I understand that there's going to be some thoughts about correcting the issues there, because if somebody wants to pass you on Ryan Road, they just use the left turn lane to pass you if you're going too slow or you're not doing 70 like they are. So I understand that there's a program where they're thinking about eliminating the left turn lane and put in, what do I want to say, mediums, and do, what is it, the turnaround? Michigan left or something. Is that truly what could be done with Ryan Road? I think it would be a great idea to eliminate those 70-mile-an-hour left-hand.
I think we'll have Mr. Bayshaw answer that.
He jumped out of his chair.
There goes Mr. Castor, here comes Mr. Bayshaw.
Hold my beer. I'll answer this.
Yeah, Councilwoman McCoskey, yes, good question. So we did apply for a grant to look at Ryan Road and look at all these options and what could we do with it? What could we do with it that's different? Like Councilman Radke was talking about earlier, and I probably should have mentioned that earlier as I was sitting down there thinking I should have mentioned that. But yes, it's a large scale grant that's looking at all types of improvements. How can we re-envision this roadway? How can we, look at how does it function? How do you make it safer? How do you, what's a good cross section? What's a good type of development that really kind of meets a lot of where the industry is going and a lot of the concerns that even Councilman Radke talked about, medians, looking at non-motorized, ways to improve the roadway, whether it be bike lanes, sidewalk improvements, any of those features, landscaping, how can landscaping improvement help the community in the area, green infrastructure, stormwater management. So this is going to be an all-encompassing study that we applied for the grant for, that would look at all that for Ryan Road, yes.
I would never ride a bike on Ryan Road. Never.
Not in its current formulation.
Not ever. I would strongly support any kind of medium that you could put in there to eliminate that left-hand turn lane because, like I said, that is a passing lane, and it will always be a passing lane. Not going to change that. So the only way that you can change that is to eliminate it and make it the turnaround or whatever you want to call it, Michigan turn, whatever. But something has to be done because I'm very serious when I say they go 60, 70 miles an hour down Ryan Road.
Yeah.
So good luck with that.
Okay.
No roundabouts, not a good idea.
Okay.
And I'm really pleased to hear that we are up to 22% in good condition. That was one of the goals that we had.
Yep.
So are you going to get it up to at least 25 next year?
No pressure.
Sorry to bust your bubble, but we probably won't gain 3% in 1 year, but we certainly will over the next few years. That number will continue to grow and grow.
Congratulations on the good work. Thank you very much. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I got some else.
Okay.
Yes, are you ready for?
Yeah, her list is far longer than mine.
I guess she wants to go last for a reason.
This will be quick. Mr. Bayshaw, you should have.
You know better.
Can we just get him a microphone and just have someone go through the audience? And you don't have to get up. So just a couple small things. In your presentation, some of the roads are getting patches, and one of those particular roads in the subdivision is Streamview. Explain what you're talking about. What is a patch?
Well, we try to refer to them as sectional repairs because really it's not really a patch. So we're taking large sections. It's a full width road improvement, and usually they vary from their 100 feet to 300 feet to 500 feet. They can be long. We're doing everything on the roadway that needs to be done. In Streamview's case, we've done some sectional repairs probably 5 years ago, I believe, maybe a little bit longer. And the areas between those sectional repairs now have deteriorated to the point where they need to be done. So that would be the full scope of Streamview.
All right, so you're completely cutting out that whole section of concrete and putting a new section of concrete in?
Correct, full width.
Okay,
Yeah,
full width. And then I apologize if I missed this. There was a lot of work being done in the city. I'm glad to see it. But I drive over the bridge on Shaner that goes over the Red Run Drain like every day. And to Councilwoman Schmidt's point, it seems like there's a lot of deterioration to the point where you can see the re-rod. So at what point does somebody say we need to fix this bridge?
This is the Shaner Road Bridge over the Red Run, so this is.
Just south of 15 Mile.
South of 15
Yeah.
Mile, yeah. The last I spoke with the county, I believe they applied for federal funding to get that repaired. And I haven't heard back yet, so I can follow up and see what the status is and get back.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. That's all I have for you.
Okay.
And Ms. Baldwin, oh, there she is, front row. Unfortunately, Ms. King has left us.
She had to leave, yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious, is 52% participation rate in the DEI survey considered good?
No.
No, okay.
Nope, it's not. So ideally, what we look for, and I learned this, going through this process, is at least a 70% participation rate.
So how do we get to 70%?
I think, we don't know
Well,
why.
let me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the thought just, so at only 52% are the next steps that we're working on, are they going to be skewed because of only 52%?
No, basically what that tells us is, we looked at it, we had 52% participation. So there's a couple things that we're looking at is, obviously, we have a group of employees that are not engaged or did not want to respond to the survey for one reason or another. The survey also told us certain things of, what employees are familiar with, not familiar with, as it relates to DEI in the organization. So that response rate, it will give us an opportunity to shape the way we proceed with this journey and what trainings, what development plans are going to be needed for the employees. And through more engagement in the process, we're hoping that we'll have additional engagement when we do a subsequent survey. So at the end of this process, the goal is to do another survey, just to get a pulse of the organization and see if that data shifts in a different direction based on where it's at now.
So the council, did you note that, well, was someone from every department on the council? Was someone from every department on the council?
Yes, we have representation from all departments.
Okay. Was there any, I don't want to mention names, but were there any specific departments more than others that refused to participate?
I don't know the answer to that question. The respondents, they only responded with demographic information, so we didn't ask for names or departments that they responded from.
Okay. Okay, that's all I got. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And then Ms. Turgeon, I'm curious. You can just shout from your seat, I guess. And I'm sure the city attorney, I see these bike rental programs in many different locations. I've never rented one myself. Are we going to require helmets? Are we going to require helmets? I'm going to look at the attorney.
I haven't talked to the city attorney about that yet.
And if we require helmets, do we provide them?
We can't provide helmets that would be
Gross.
perfectly fitting to each person. So there may be something on a waiver that says, I've been told to wear a helmet. I'm not an attorney and I don't pretend to be one, so.
I know on electric scooters, they, before you can officially sign up for their app, there's a whole thing, and one of them is you should be wearing a helmet.
Right. And people should be wearing helmets.
There's no scooter police, so.
I will not have scooters. I just have bikes.
Okay, well, I just, as someone who rides and wears a helmet, I think, especially when you're riding through Dodge Park and the edges of the asphalt are fairly steep. We have a lot of trees. We have a lot of traffic, especially when you're trying to get across the Utica Road or what have you. So safety should be primary. I would hate to see us take something as fun as bike rentals and turn it into a program where somebody was severely injured or worse. Anyways, all right.
No, we don't want that.
No, we don't want that. But that's all I have. Thank you very much. Thank you for your work. And I will say, before I turn this over to my colleague here, I do appreciate the work that everybody put into this presentation. I'm looking forward to the next one. It really does highlight the quality of people that we have working at the director level, and I do appreciate each and every one of them for the hard work that they put in on this. So thank you. That's all I have, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Yanes. Mrs. Ziarko.
I'm going to start out by repeating what Mr. Yanis says and thanking everybody that had a part in, this presentation tonight, because we do appreciate it. We know it takes a lot of time, and it's very, very helpful to the decisions that we make. And you have to understand that you are giving us the best information that we need to make a decision. So I really do appreciate that. So I have a lot of comments, I have a few questions, but I'll go with the comments first. As far as the Parks and Rec, the extended programs, I think that's great. And this Park on the Run, I think is good. I think it's clever. I think it'll be successful. Of course, anything we do in Parks and Rec is successful. So I do appreciate that. And then this is just planting a seed, and when we talked about taking care of Moravian, and we said Shaner to Hayes, if we could actually start talking to Clinton Township and actually do the improvements from probably Shaner to at least Utica Road, that would be helpful. We'd have to have some kind of cooperation with Clinton Township in order to do that. I'm certainly happy with the results of Safe Streets. I want to thank the residents because they voted for it, and now this is what we can do with what you voted for. So, and it's been successful, so I really do appreciate that. Let's see. Then I'm going to go to code enforcement as far as violations. So, Mr. Kessler, if you can answer some of my questions. When we're monitoring, and I'm asking this because I got a letter probably in the last couple of weeks from a resident that says we were actually, scoping his house out, and actually we weren't, because I think we were actually looking at another home in the area that was a chronic problem. So, and it just so happened that another home was in violation. So I'm sure because code enforcement was there, they got a violation as well. So is that something that we do on a regular basis, that if we're there for one violation, we might be issuing several because the inspector notices other things? Through the chair to Mr. Castor.
Mr. Castor.
So for code enforcement is both proactive and complaint-based reactive. So if we are out there monitoring a property for a complaint or a proactive issue, and we do notice something, there is an occasion where we would cite multiple properties while we're on that street. It may be as a result of the complaint that brought us to that street. The code officer could just have been there, but we also do not, if a particular resident brings it to our attention, we don't go out of our way to say, well, you also have some issues and we are going to cite you for it. If we notice them while we're there, brought to their property with a concern, we might provide them just a verbal, hey, you have some stuff that you might also want to look at, but we wouldn't get into the official violation status if we were there at their request.
Okay. And the other thing is, did we send out letters to businesses reminding them of the noxious weed ordinance in the last week or so?
So what we do is for vacant properties in the city, any vacant property in the city receives a letter that says your property is vacant, just to bring it to your attention that it is required to be maintained within the noxious weed ordinance 6 inches or less. We do not send it out to every property in the city. We send it targeted to just vacant properties because there's nobody there to recognize that the grass is long and needs to be serviced.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further. Okay. Let's go through the chair to Mrs. Varney. Okay, I can remember the last time we had a AA+ bond rating was when we actually raised the millage 1.9 mils. Why, and it happened like the next year. Why do we think we might get this upgrade in 2 years? Why is the process taking longer, I guess, to get that upgrade?
So the main reason we were downgraded then, again, that was during the Great Recession, the local economy was down. So a lot of communities got downgraded really through nothing that the community did. So the past few years, the reason that's been quoted by S&P as to why we're still at a AA was twofold. One was our pension and OPEB liabilities. And that's what we actually went to Chicago this year to present to S&P, because our, our pension OPEB liabilities have been doing so well the past few years, along with our overall development and overall economic health of the city. We really felt we had a great chance of getting upgraded. And they were really impressed. If I'm sure if you read the report, you'll see the overall tone of the report is improved. It wasn't bad before, but it's improved. Impressed with the progress on our pension and OPEB, our plan to keep it going, our economic development. The truth is, one of the things that's stopping us right now is something that the city doesn't have a lot of control over. It's they look at the per capita income levels. They look at price of housing stock. And, those are things, it just, that's one of the things that's stopping us from moving up quicker. But, in talking to the analysts and in the report, they indicated that, so the pension liabilities, as you saw in that chart, there was a big upswing this year. The market did very, very well last year. And so what they want to see to upgrade us is that is going to continue, that it wasn't a one-time thing and then next year, we're going to plummet again. So, I'm pretty confident that if we continue on the track, with our strong fund balance, our continued commitment to working on our pension and OPEB liabilities, that maybe next year, because we will be going out for the final section of the Mound Road bond, maybe even next year we'll get that bump to AA+. But I know it seems the increase from to positive was really, even though it's not an increase, it was the S&P analyst that told me that only 2% of local governments have a positive outlook. So I think that says a lot about the progress that, we've made and, the financial health of the city.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
Long-winded, but.
No, but it helps me to understand, because it seemed like we went and raised the millage rate, and the next thing they raise our bond rating. So it's like getting a credit card and your credit card score goes up. But yeah. So that's why, and then to think there'd be like a 2-year wait period for this to happen,
Mayor Pro Tem, could I just interject one point? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead. I just want to say that a AA is a superior bond rating, and we got to keep that in mind. That our bond rating is outstanding. This is really just an effort to, continuous improvement. But we're in best of class. We want to get to the elite level, but we've got a superior bond rating.
I don't want you worrying about that, Mr. Vanderpool. I know we have a great bond rating. I think we should have a better rate. I think we should have it now. We shouldn't have to wait 2 years. So, but that was my thought, is why is it going to take so long when we're doing better now than we were when we had it the last time? So, but yes, you have answered my question, and I'm sure that you've eased Mr. Vanderpool's, his concerns. So that's it for the bond rating. Okay, library. I think you've got some great ideas at the library. And I noticed that we're buying the bikes from Macomb Bike, and we were talking about the maintenance, moving forward. Some places actually provide maybe a spring tune-up because you bought your bike there, so you just take it back to the same place. So maybe there's some kind of, relationship that we can work with the store as far as what they can do in the future to help us with the maintenance.
Yeah, this is a new agreement for them, a new venture for them as well, so I think.
Ignore the man behind the curtain.
There's always one in the crowd.
Yes.
No, this will be this is a new venture for them as well, and they're willing to work with us to make sure that the bikes are maintained, so they'll probably be coming on site and helping us to make sure that they stay on the road.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, now, it's not last, but it's very important to me, is the DEI, the council, as well as the efforts that we're making in that area. And we talk about this through, all the time. So I guess my first question would be to Ms. Baldwin, is we have this committee, this council that's set up. Are there term limits to the people sitting on that council, or they can serve as long as we need them?
They can serve as long as we need them.
Okay, so that's a good thing. The other thought is, I think that some of the information that we're gathering from, from this effort should also be shared with MML, because they're watching us very closely as far as the African American Coalition, and this would tie into it. And I serve on the committee for the DEI for MML, one of our subcommittees. So a lot of these discussions that we've had, and we're really, I can't say blazing the trail here, because there are other cities that have, started something like that, but maybe aren't as far as we are. So I think they'd be interested in seeing, the success and the work that we're doing. And we always talk about, why don't minorities want to come here and work? And I think sometimes that we should be doing a follow-up, maybe interview with the people that turn us down that might be a minority, to find out why they didn't want to work here. Because we certainly are doing, all the efforts that we have. So what's the reason? And I know one of them is minorities are very faithful to the communities that they were raised in. So they might go to college, they might become successful in their field, but they want to go back to the cities that they were raised in, to bring other people up with them. So I think that's part of what we see maybe in police and fire, is that, we interview them, but they want to go back to the Detroits, the Pontiacs. That's where they want to be, because that's where they were raised. So, so that is, I can't say it's a problem, but I think it's a reason why we're doing it. And I think as a summary, and I don't think it's going to happen now, but I would like to see, like, what we consider, or what I would think Ms. King would consider, as well as yourself, is our strengths in this area, what we're working on, and what either is a weakness or a needs improvement. Okay. So if we could come up with, and so that we can focus on that and then go from there. Okay. All right. And lastly, because I don't think I commented on the zoning map. You know what I heard tonight, and so I really want some more information, because what I heard tonight sounds to me like we're looking for a problem to a solution instead of the other way around. So I would like more information on that, and hopefully we can hold off until the updates for strategic planning in June. And yeah, and the reason why I say that is we constantly get compliments from the developers in the city saying how easy we are to work with. They seem to understand the process that we have. So at least the ones that we're working here now, with now, and I would question, is it other people that maybe have a parcel that isn't developed that, want us to change things so it suits them? So those are things that I would question. And we're talking about ancillary buildings and, other people living in the home with the family, with a primary family. And we have that going on now. But, I've been in Sterling Heights since 1977. And I remember when my husband and I were looking for used homes. And I remember pulling up in Sterling Heights at a Colonial, and all he could see was this 2-car garage, and in the backyard there was another 2-car garage. What we found out when we walked into it, though, is the one that was attached to the house was actually somebody's bedroom. So this has been going on since 1977, that these type of adjustments have been made to homes. So I don't think that's anything new. So now I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Yarko. So I will make my comments, and I'm going to make them brief, since we've been here for 3 hours. So I do want to thank everybody and all the departments. Very good, very hard work, and very, very informative on all of your presentations tonight. I just have three comments or three departments that I want to comment on, so I'm going to start with, and I don't need you to get, well, actually I do, Mrs. Tammy Turgeon, please, if you could come up for, I have a couple questions about the library. Just a couple questions on the bikes, of course. So I know that you say that they're going to be outside at the bike racks. Are they going to be stored at all times at those bike racks?
Yes, unless we think there's going to be storms or something like that, then we'll bring them into the library.
Okay, because I, even overnight, left outside overnight? Okay.
Unless it becomes a problem, because, we're flexible and we're willing, it's a new program, so we can easily bring them into the lobby.
I would think that that would be better at night. I would recommend that.
Okay.
Just as a safety measure, and I think our police officers might think that'd be a great idea too.
Sounds
Just
good.
saying. And you said that they were going to have 4 bikes
Yep,
initially?
2 adult and 2 kids.
Okay, very good. So 2 adult and 2 children. Okay, very good. And then I did hear that they were going to be maintained by the Macomb Bike, so that's great, because that was one of my questions. So very good. And I think that that's great. So it's basically a family could rent them?
Yes.
Overnight for 24 hours?
2 hours.
Oh, okay, so I guess I can't take them home with them.
No.
Okay.
We want to keep them on the city campus.
Okay, so 2 hours at a time.
Yeah.
And can they check them out for more than 2 hours at a time, or it's only 2 hours, that's it?
2 hours, that's it, because we're
Okay.
hoping that there will be other people waiting to use them.
I see. Probably will be. Okay, very good. And that's really the only question that I had for you, Ms. Sturgeon, so thank you very much. And then I did want to just make a comment about the Clinton River. As we had spoken about, I love the Clinton River. When I first moved here, I really wanted to get on that Clinton River, and there was no way possible to get on it. I hated that fact. I thought I couldn't even go in, except for going to the river, the bridge, and looking over at it. I couldn't even see it from the banks. So I'm so impressed, and I'm very grateful that we've got this maintained. I want to thank the Clinton River Watershed Council, as well as the Clinton River Canoe and Kayak for keeping it maintained. And I want to encourage everybody to use that river, get your kayaks, get your canoes, look over the bridge if you have to, but I think that our Clinton River is one of our greatest and most beneficial assets that we have. I use my kayak as much as I can on it, and even though my husband will not go with me because he says I pushed him in, I didn't, but he swears that I did, and refuses to kayak with me ever again. So with that, I did want to go, and on a different note, Ms. Baldwin, I just want to make a comment, so you do not need to get up. But I do think that diversity, equity, and inclusion is making wonderful strides, and I want to commend you and Ms. King. At my newest position, I've been there 3 weeks now, we are actually starting to explore the journey of DE&I. And it's a challenge because I'm working with Jesuit priests, and they're, it's a new venture for them, and they're learning, and I think it's wonderful that we've gotten to the point where we are here, and I look forward to the journey here so that I can help guide them there, because we're doing they are, I should say, doing it on their own without outside guidance, and I think we might need outside guidance eventually, so but I think that it's wonderful, and recruiting and talent acquisition is going to be something that I want to see how we progress with that, because that is something that's a challenge universally at this point, and I think that to be able to recruit and acquire talent that mimics and mirrors the community that you work and live in is key to making sure that you are actually successful in that community. So I thank you for working on that and bringing us up into the 20th, not just 20th, but into the 21st century. So thank you very much. And with that, council, we need to vote on this motion. So council, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries. So I think that we have successfully gotten through that portion of our meeting, and so now we need to move on to communications from citizens. Is there anyone in the audience? I thought you were raising your hand. Okay. Scratching is fine too. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on any item not on the agenda? Yes, Mr. Rashada.
Weeks back, there had been raised the discussion of marijuana dispensaries in the city, and I wanted to express my full support for that. I understand that there are concerns with regards to whether it's smell or enforcement regarding those, particularly if they were located in strip malls like they are in some other communities. I know that there are multiple single business locations here in Sterling Heights that have sat vacant for a considerable amount of time. The bank at 15 in Dodge Park comes to mind most prominently. There's also a doctor's office near 17 in Van Dyke, if I recall correctly. I think that venues like that would present ample opportunities for the city to generate revenue and bring in business to the city, and would like to see those put to good use. And I think that a dispensary would be a proper place for those locations, as they are at a significant distance away from residential properties, and they're not seeing use now. Let's get some revenue from them. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Rashada. Anybody else in the audience? Okay, seeing none, we can close that portion of comments from citizens and move on to comments from any council members. Council, any comments tonight? And reports from administration.
Nothing further, Mayor Pro Tem.
Nothing from Mr. Vanderpool tonight? Okay, thank you. Mr. Koszybski?
Nothing tonight, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you. Any unfinished business this evening from council? Okay, in hearing none, we conclude that. And can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support. Thank you. Motion has been made and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This council meeting is adjourned.
Yay.